Hello everyone, welcome back to Superleague, GPVWC Superleague. This is round 15 of the championship, and we are at a rather saturated Singapore getting ready for the start of qualifying, and we'll get the green light in just a couple of seconds now. 15 minutes ahead of us to decide the grid, and a quite important grid actually for what could be a pretty challenging race. I'm going to be joined once again by Russ McIntyre. Russ, have you recovered from your coughing fit?
Just about. It's been an interesting few weeks of food poisoning and then cold after cold after cold, but I'm back in the business. And as you said, Kaylin, we're here at Singapore. Absolute pleasure to be back with GPVWC Super League as always. And well, as you can quite clearly see, the track is absolutely soaking at the moment. Full wets for qualifying as the race goes on. Dry line could be forming, could be intermediates, because it looks like the rain isn't falling currently. But obviously with these private qualifying sessions that we get, there's not really any water being kicked up by all of the cars out on track. So you're just going to have to grin and bear it for the next 14 minutes and 10 seconds. Yannick Bock, championship leader, heading out of the pit lane very, very early. He can actually wrap up the championship this weekend. In reality, probably won't. There's going to be a lot of luck on his side, but I think it's safe to say, Caitlin, he can certainly put one hand on the trophy.
Yes, indeed. He'd need to score 21 more points than Leon Bock in order to wrap up the championship today. 22 more points than Maciej Winnick, and then it kind of depends on what the others behind them do. The only two other people who are realistically, I guess realistically, Yannick already has one hand majorly on the trophy now, having with Maciej Winnick having missed out in the last round, and Leon Bock, of course, playing second fiddle to him for the majority of the season. But of course, if he can wrap it up today, that will be a big weight off of his shoulders, and he can go into the final 3 rounds of the championship as the confirmed world champion. Realistically, he will probably wrap it up next time at the Japanese Grand Prix. It still depends on what the other people do and what he can do, whether he can finish the races. And we would all love to see it go on to Brazil. But it's looking better and better as the season goes on for Yannick Bock. Onto a flying lap he goes now, and you'll be able to see the Singapore circuit from on board with Yannick if we stay with him. He's gone slightly wide there at turn 1, slightly over the white line. I'm not sure that the game would have automatically removed his lap for that, though, because it's not like he cut the inside of turn 2. He was back on the track before it really mattered, and it looks as if he's still going for it, still pushing. A few dry patches as he goes under the bridges, not really long enough to pose an issue. They're not going to be unsettling the car or whatever. It's still very much a damp track down there. We would have had one of the DRS zones just then, but of course in the wet, the DRS will not be active until the drivers are at least on intermediate tyres, and the track is, I think, below 15% dampness is what we determined would be. Oh, that's very close to the wall there for Jake Dennehan in the VBM Esports car. Big twitch. This is the Anderson Bridge sector here. You go across one bridge to go onto the other side of the I guess it's the sea actually, because it's a little bit of a saltwater channel down there, and then you go back across the bridge in the other direction there after going through a hairpin. That should be another DRS zone, but of course in the wet it won't be. And then we come towards the final sector of the lap, which is a rather technical sector. This is the bit that has been designed as a permanent bit of race circuit. This is we're no longer on public streets here, and then we go underneath one of the grandstands, the driest part of the circuit. That one will be, and presumably the grippiest. And then we continue to twitch and slide our way through to the final corner of the lap, which is actually 2 corners. And if you get a good exit here, then you will be all set for the start-finish line. So across the line now goes Jake Dennehan. The laps have been set so far. We've got Jeffrey Fournier at the top with a 1:54.601. More times coming in. Fast in the first sector was Jake Dennehan. Fast in the third was Yannis Volburn. And fast in the second is currently Eros Masculi, who has not set his lap yet. So laps continuing to come in, as they will for the next 10.5 minutes for us.
They will indeed. I may have lied earlier when I said it wasn't raining. It really doesn't look like it from the trackside shots, but when we went on board, as I'm sure you could see, absolutely pouring it down in Singapore. So going to be a very, very tricky race for these drivers out there. I mean, this is a circuit that is tough at the best of times. It's a real test of technical ability in the car as Rolt gets very twitchy, the reigning champion for the time being, pushing the limits in that Edge Esports #1 car, but the first sector down on his personal best. He's currently sitting P3, so not too bad. I mean, again, this is very much going to be a tricky race. Highly likely to be a race of attrition. I mean, in the dry here at Singapore, we saw last year, my mind goes back to the Super Cup race, or a Formula Sprint 1 as it's now known, when the three leaders crashed into each other at one point. It really just is keep it on the track as much as you can in the dry. In the wet, it's, well, let's pray to the Simracing god, shall we? Because, I mean, you can just see how slow these cars are creeping around. I mean, we're looking at laps close to the 55s, 154.476, the current best time from Daniel Stepkowski. Rolt, though, with a purple middle sector, but it's not by much. And with this first sector down, we'll have to see what he does through the final sector. Another dry section there. You mentioned earlier, Caitlin, it won't be too much of a problem in qualifying, and I think you're right there. It's not long enough to cause any overheating tyres, whatever, but in the race, I think that could be a real problem as Stepkowski actually bails from the lap. I think those dry sections under the bridges could actually pose a little bit of a problem, especially early on the race when you're bunched together with cars. You're going to have dirty air. If you're changing direction and suddenly the grip levels change because you've gone from wet to dry or dry to wet, it could really unsettle the car, even in a straight line. So I think that's something to watch out for, as drivers actually losing the car in a straight line, perhaps. But of course, these are the best of the best in our Factor 2 single-seater sim racing. As Thomas Harvey there, well, if that was real life, you wouldn't have a floor anymore. But luckily, this is sim racing, so you can get away with sparking away and abusing some curbs. So I think they'll be up for the challenge nonetheless. But I think if we get any post-race interviews, a few worn-out drivers will be ready to speak to us. As Harvey there, pole position, a huge lap time, 2 cents faster than Massage Munich.
Now, there are three drivers out there right now on intermediate tyres, so it appears that the track is getting drier. Jeffrey Fournier is out there, as are Tomasz Vok and Dylan Platt, and this is the best kind of qualifying session, in my opinion, the kind where the track gets significantly faster as the session goes along, because you see drivers taking risks and getting brave with the tyre choices, and you see it come right down to the end. Sometimes the driver who's last across the start-finish line is the one who takes the pole position. Thomas Harvey once again setting fastest first sector, despite having just completed a flying lap. So presumably going for another one, 2 in a row. Either that or just putting in a really, really fast in lap to try to get back to set another lap. Here's Yannick Bock, was pretty quick in the first sector. Second sector was down on his personal best. In fact, first sector was down on his personal best as well. It just still appears as a purple because he was even faster than Thomas Harvey's time. We know that Harvey can go quicker because he has gone quicker since. And into the pits comes Yannick Bock, so still more time for him to gain. Thomas Harvey was a couple of tenths up on pretty much all of the other drivers around him in both the first and second sectors. The second sector was where he gained most of his time on his first flying lap, but this does appear to still be another flying lap. So 2 on the bounce now for Thomas Harvey. He goes through the drier section, takes an awful lot of curb, a lot more than I'd expect for these conditions. And he's going to take an awful lot of curb through that chicane as well, gets as close to the wall as he can, and also comes into the pits on a lap that may have even been an improvement there. So I presume he may have been low on fuel and realized that he wasn't going to be able to go for another lap if he stayed out. And right now you need to be open to going for other laps. Winnick is now on intermediate tyres, as is Jukka-Pekka Lalu and Stephen Lexo. So even more drivers now heading out there on the intermediate tyres. I haven't seen any sectors yet from drivers on inters. Thomas Vok's first sector was down there, and the fastest first sector is coming in from Jake Dennehan in the VBM Esports car now. Stefan Roll also pretty quick out there on, well, he would have just completed his outlap now. So still the track getting better, not quite good enough for the drivers on inters yet, although now that I say that, Fournier sets a personal best.
Yeah, good lap there from Fournier, bumping him up to P5 in the order. But there's still 5 minutes left in this qualifying session, and Stefan Rolt with 2 purple sectors in a row. We've seen him there or thereabouts at the top of the grid and then struggling. The lag causes him to stop where he was for a second, but he's back on the pace now and making his way through the very awkward final sector. A lot of low to medium speed corners in this part of the track. You've really got to be patient with the car, especially in the wet, which is not what these drivers are used to. They're used to hounding the car through every corner as fast as they can, and now you've just got to sit and let the car just coast around. It is almost boring sometimes, frankly, but as he comes to the final couple of corners now, can he keep it pointed? Can he keep it on the grey stuff? And as he comes to the line, what's it going to be? Wow, that is a very, very strong run from Stefan Roll. 8.5 tenths. And Leon Bock goes within 0.5 tenth of it. And then Jen goes quick. What is going on?
Well, what's happened is that suddenly the track has got an awful lot quicker. Through comes Shimon Frelich to go fourth now as well, the driver who won the Super Lights race the other day. Who's that? Who's just said a lot? Rowan Panzer goes fourth. The track has just got about 9 tenths of a second quicker.
Some of them are going on inters. Look at it.
Fournier is fourth on the inters. So Fournier just goes fourth on the inters there. It's still not quite the fastest tyre. It looks as if they're about the same, actually, the two different tyre compounds. Fabio Sixter goes seventh. And it looks as if, Inters will very soon become the tyres to be on. Now, remember, at this point, the tyres that the drivers are setting the laps on are not necessarily the tyres that they're going to be starting the race on. That rule only comes into the play if you are in dry conditions on dry tyres. If you're on inters or full wets, you don't have to start on those tyres. So these drivers now have got no excuse but to put on what they feel will be the fastest tyre and go as quickly as they possibly can. Daniel Stepkowski now up into seventh as we're speaking. So the order is Denahan, Roll, Leon Bock, Fournier, and Panzer, the top five, coming into the final 3.5 minutes of qualifying. And this is going to be one of those sessions where if it doesn't start raining again, the last drivers across the line is going to have the advantage.
Yeah, it's. I think the track is definitely getting quicker, but the question is does it stay this way or does the rain get heavier? Going out in the inters, I mean, obviously the drivers have that weather data, but is it entirely reliable? It's a bit of a gamble if the inters will even be the fastest tyre come the end of the session. So we'll have to wait and see. Currently, the wets look marginally quicker. Wow, Stephen Lexau getting all sorts of sideways coming under the bridge there and into the final chicane section, bouncing his way across the curbs. You can take them in the wet round here in R-Factor 2. It's not like real life where wet range, you want to avoid them like the absolute plague. They've still got a decent amount of grip. You do just have to be careful as Lexau goes to 17th. Roll in the pits there. I think he's just waiting to see what the track does. We've got 2.5 minutes left. He's going to have to head out soon. And but what does he head out on? Does he head out on the wets? As the inters, as Thomas Harvey, it was pretty much massively down in the first sector, but the middle sector massively up, a purple sector there, and he's now diving into the pits. Of course, the first sector was down, but he'll get a fresh set of inters on. He seems confident the inters are the tyres to be in, and of course, in private qualifying, you've got no idea what your opponents are going out of as well, so it adds another element. You can't tell what tyres your opponents are going to go out on until the last minute as Denahan comes out and he's on the wets. So provisional pole sitter on his final hour lap on the wet compound of tyre. He thinks they're the tyre to be on coming down. Does anybody shake it up, and does anyone gamble on inters?
Well, according to my live timing, he's actually on inters right now. So unless I think the server must not have updated itself yet. Either that or I don't know, because it does look like they're blue tyre walls, but my live timing is saying that the majority of drivers out there are on intermediate tyres right now, including Jake Denahan. So what I was going to say before is that MDR are back, Mayor Downard Racing. Have Stephen Lexo, who we saw a few minutes ago, but they actually have both cars out there right now. They also have Vincent Gutt in the other MDR car. Now, MDR haven't been seen since Azerbaijan, so that was 10 rounds ago, and they're back. So fantastic to see them back in this championship. I thought that team had withdrawn their entry and all of that, but they are indeed back in action. Now, here's Yannick Bock. He is improving his time, and he will need to, because for a driver who is seemingly about to clinch the championship in the next 2 rounds or so, starting 17th on the grid would not exactly be representative, but he is improving and will likely put himself into the top 10 with this lap. I think it might actually be good enough for top 5, especially if the track continues to improve. Philip Pushke has gone 8th meanwhile.
Wow.
And here comes Yannick Bock, and it's a big lap from Yannick, and it's 3.5 seconds faster than Jake Denahan. So Yannick Bock now goes to the top of the time, and we have just 30 seconds to go until the checkered flag comes comes out on this session, the drivers who have started their final flying lap by then will be allowed to finish it. But they have a pretty high bar to beat now, with Yannick Buck going through on a 152.795 for us.
Yeah, Stefan Rolt, he's made the gamble. He's gone out on inters. Yannick, of course, will get another push lap. The wets aren't like the slick tyres. You can just push them lap after lap after lap, and as long as they don't overheat, they maintain a lot of their grip. They're actually a very hard tyre in terms of their make, their compound, so you can just push and push and push. On the wets, the inters similar, but less so. Stefan Rolt massively down in the opening sector. It looks like wets were the right call after all for Yannick Bock. We'll watch him through the final half of the lap as he makes his way through the that used to be the old Singapore sling chicane down there, the infamous left right left, now just replaced with a fast yet awkward left-hander. Now coming across the bridge section, very awkward braking zone. You've got to hit your marks and then not hit that inside wall and not snag the brakes as well. So crucial. And Stefan Roll just struggling to get the traction down, to get the grip through the rear tyres. It is just, you've got to point it in a straight line and then pray it stays straight as you put the power through the rear wheels. Checkered flag, of course, is now out, but it's a purple middle sector from Stefan Rolt. So maybe he made a mistake in the opening sector. Oh, that's a huge slide. Amazing car control from the reigning champion to keep it pointing in the right direction, but I can't imagine that's going to benefit him greatly as he comes through the final few sectors. Now we'll follow him round to the line. Final chicane, clatters the inside sausage curbs on his way through all the way to the wall on the outside. Now as Masej Minek goes to pole, Stefan Rolt coming to the line. A big wobble at the final corner, but keeps it straight. Does he improve? He only goes third. So those slides didn't do him any justice. Minek goes to pole. Yannick Bock coming into the pit, so he will not improve on his final time. Leon Bock misplaces his brother. He goes to P2 ahead of the championship leader as Thomas Vosch apparently starts a final lap, even though the check flag. Now Jeffrey Fournier goes to third now. So he displaces Yannick Bock as well. So Yannick Bock, at a weekend where he could have put one hand on the trophy, qualifying getting worse and worse for him. What does Masculi do with the purple first sector? All the way to the line, can only manage 12th, but that is still a very strong lap. Masej Minek, that's looking like it's going to be pole position for the driver in the number one car after clinching the championship at the final round, the final corner last season. I'm talking about the wrong person. That was Stefan Rolt. Masej Minek, should I say, was in a firm lead of the Drivers' Championship, having won 3 races in the Championship, Portugal, Azerbaijan and Monaco. But then, unfortunately, DNF in Belgium, a no-show at Italy because it was his birthday. Well, that's 50 points just wasted, and that's why he's 56 points back from Yannick Bock in the championship, who's capitalised fully. 2 wins on the trot in Belgium and Italy, and a 3rd place in Hungary, a 2nd place in Austria. He's on a podium streak that goes back to Monaco. The man is on fire. Masej Minek has taken the worst possible time to have a rough result and a no-show, but he takes pole position here in tricky conditions at Singapore, with Liam Bock lining up alongside him on the front row. Jeffrey Fournier, a huge qualifying for the number 89 Scuderia Brasilia. He starts from P3 with championship leader Yannick Bock only 4th. By his standards, it was close at the top, but he'll be disappointed and looking to move forward. Reigning champion Stefan Rolt starts from 5th with Robin Panter in 6th. Shimon Frelich, a superb job from him to get to 7th. Daniel Stepkowski, after leading early on, could only manage 8th. And it's a HRT row 5. Janis Volban and Thomas Harvey lining up P9 and 10 for Holland Racing Team. Jake Dennehan, again, another driver after a strong pace early in the session. Only 11th with Eros Masculi in 12th. Thomas Vac manages to get to 13th for E-Team Harv with Chris Shepherd in P14. Philip Pushka is P15 with Fabio Sixter in 16th. The 9th row is Heigo Poo and Matthias Muth, with Stephen Lexauer on MDR's return, P19, and Jan Dragoon rounding out the top 20. And then the final 5 drivers on the grid, we've got Jukka Pekalalu, Vincent Gutt, Dylan Platt, Dan Hayek, and then David Yunt not setting a lap time. Didn't even bother in the Stacks Racing number 36. Maybe he's got a penalty. I'll have to double check that, or maybe just a couple of issues there for him. So I have to wait and see. But that wraps up qualifying here in the Super League for round 13 of 16. Getting into crunch time in the season now in GPVWC Super League. And we have got what could be a very intense race of attrition if the rain continues to fall here in Singapore of course, a very, very tropic climate here. When the rain falls, it absolutely hammers it down. Hello and welcome. If you're just joining us here to round 13 of the Grand Prix Virtual World Championship and the top tier here in the Super League. If you haven't already, please make sure that you like, share, subscribe, follow on whatever the platform you're watching. It really helps us out here at GPVWC, and your support is always fully appreciated. And of course, keep commenting away as well in the chats. Caitlin always does like to keep a keen eye on what's going on. And, well, you may have some inside information as well that we don't know. So please do let us know. Caitlin, I think, is just having a little bit of trouble with her internet. I'm sure she'll be back in a moment's notice as we head out for the warm-up session. If you're new to Simracing, new to R-Factor 2, well, it's just like warm-up in real motorsport. You go out 10 minutes. Except in Simracing, it's more to make sure your hardware's all working, really, that you get your strategy right, make sure the car's behaving on the high fuel load like you expect it to. But some drivers like to have a little bit of fun in this session. You'll see some drivers burying it into walls, I'm sure, just pushing the limits of the tyres, pushing the limits of the cars. And, well, you can get away with it because you don't have to pay millions and millions of dollars to fix it up in a Simracing. It is all free to repair. As we keep going round, and well, what a quali we have just seen there. I mean, what a pole time from Masic Minik as well. What a way to return after that. After that problem. Just Belgium obviously issues didn't quite go his way, and DNF losing out on 25 points, and then a no-show for his birthday last time around. Well, let's just say that Yannick Bock capitalised on that one, but Yannick Bock only managing fourth when his main championship rivals of Masic Minik and his brother Leon lining up on the front row of the grid. A superb effort from the pair of them. And it's going to be interesting to see how that all unfolds. But yeah, it's just the warm-up session now. As we just make our way around, and it looks like it is going to be a wet race. So we'll have to see what's going to happen. Strategy, I'm not going to be too sure what happens in the wet. I mean, my strategy prowess is anything to go by, to put it politely. It is terrible. But in the wet, of course, those are... well, just been told in my ear by the producer that strategy is going to be a mess, and I think that's what we're going to have to go with, because obviously when you're preparing for a race, I mean, obviously you're well aware of the weather radar, but most drivers thinking in terms of dry strategy. They haven't got 80 or so engineers back at HQ and the chief strategist Pit Wall, running supercomputers, telling them what to do, what's going to happen, when's the best time to pit, if they're going to come out and clear air. They've got themselves maybe an engineer in their ear over a Discord voice chat as Minik running a bit wide there through the left-hander. And that is it. You've got to do it all yourself on the fly. Now, of course, if it's a wet race, which we're presuming it will be, although the track does seem to be drying out a little bit in this warm-up session, but of course the conditions during the race could be different. You can run the wet tyres very, very deep into the race. They do go a long way. The Inter's not so much, but they're still a pretty hard compound of tyre. And of course, because there's less tread, you're naturally wearing them down less as well, because there's less tyre in contact with the road to wear down. Because you have to go slower through the corners, because, well, there's less tread, again, less wear on the tyres. So naturally, the wet weather, the intermediate tyres, they can go further than the slick tyres. And of course, because you're keeping them cool as well with the rain, and they work best in a lower operating temperature, it all adds up. But, when do you box? What do you do? Do you make the call to come in for intermediates? Do you make that gamble? It's going to be tricky to see what happens, and you can just see their Masic Minik so light on the brakes, so light on the throttle. Coming into the corners, just trying to keep the car stable, not lock up, not spin up the rears. I mean, that is precision on the throttle and the brake pedal if I've ever seen it. But he's just coasting around there, is the pole sitter, trying to find the limits, trying to find how the car is going to behave during the race. And of course, that's another thing you got to consider as well in the opening laps. Not only is it soaking and drivers are going to be scrambling to find grip, find the lines, but there's also 25 cars out there all trying to do the same thing. I think it is safe to say there may be chaos in store. A little over 5 minutes left in this warm-up session. As Yannick Bock there, only go from P4, the championship leader. A disappointing disappointing qualifying for him, I think it's sure. But we'll have to wait and see how it's all going to unfold. I mean, we know that Yannick typically stronger in the races than he is during qualifying, and that's not to take away from his one-lap pace. He is strong out there, to say the least, one of the fastest drivers on the grid. I mean, the vice champion of 2021 by only a handful of points in that finale at Sao Paulo, leading the championship quite comfortably this season as well. And if he gets a strong result here, can essentially make himself champion-elect, barring a disaster in the final couple of races. So we'll have to wait and see how he moves forward. Currently running P3, Philip Pushka and Fabio Sixter running ahead of him in terms of pace. But again, warm-up, got to take it with a pinch of salt. Some drivers just preferring just to get out there and get a feel. Some drivers getting to treat it like a second qualifying session, just on a full load of fuel, it would seem. Or maybe just post a story on their social media showing how fast they are. And on the subject of social media, of course, keep commenting away, both in the live stream chats and, of course, on Twitter or Instagram, whatever you are. You can follow the GPVWC Twitter page, which gives live accounts for all of the races, lap-by-lap commentary if you can't watch the races. And, of course, you can also keep posting away with the hashtag GPVWC, hashtag Superleague, hashtags, funnily enough. And of course, again, hello and welcome if you're just joining us into the final few minutes of this warm-up session before we will get going with the race here in Singapore, round 13 of 16 here for 2022. Really getting in to the really getting into the crunch time of the championship here with its 61 laps on offer at Singapore. Of course, it's one of the longer races of the season, and well, with the wet, it's going to be even longer, I'm afraid to say. So get yourself comfortable, grab some popcorn, grab a drink if you so need, be it alcoholic or non-alcoholic. Of course, don't drink if you're underage, I'll say that much. And of course, GPVWC does not promote any intake of drugs, be them legal or illegal. But you know, whatever floats your boat, whatever you need to enjoy the racing. I personally just want to watch the racing. It's just more than enough. It's always exciting here at GPVWC, and especially at Singapore. It always seems to produce electric races. And, well, in the wet, under the lights, it's sure to be an absolute firecracker. And as we just continue following around, championship leader, currently running in P7. I think he's just being careful out there, just trying to test the limits, not pushing particularly hard. You know, you're looking at some of the drivers up there who maybe haven't qualified as well, and you think, you know, maybe you're running on a light fuel load. Yannick Bock looks to me, the way the car's behaving in the corners as well, he's just turning in very early, coasting around super smooth. I think he's running a full fuel load. So he's just being nice and careful, trying to get the race pace in, trying to get into the zone, which is, you know, one of the things a lot of sim races, is that Thomas Vac out on softs, or is that just the light glinting off the intermediates a bit incorrectly? I guess we'll find out when he comes around this right-hander. I thought I saw a pair of slick tyres there. That is a pair of slick tyres. What? Okay. Thomas Voch just giving it a go, it seems. I mean, it's quite clear that he's struggling. I'll say that much. There's a pair of the medium compound of tyre that he's decided to stick on the car. Well, that's one way to go about your evening, Thomas. I'm hoping that you're not going to be doing that during the race. Maybe he's just having a bit of fun. I don't know. I mean, that's one thing I do think about a lot, actually. It's I ponder about sim racing sometimes. I know it's a bit sad, but it's what I do. It's kind of my job to talk about it. I may as well have a think about it every now and again. And you know, it is interesting because you have such different philosophies of sim racing and how it all how some drivers like to go about their business. Obviously, you've got the drivers you know, who take it super seriously and are up the front. You know, it's just pure focus, pure commitment. And well, now in esports across the board as well, we're starting to see like an intake of athletes taking it like it's a sport, you know, doing training, which I think is actually a really good idea. You know, healthy body, healthy mind and all that. And well, in sim racing, your mind needs to be on top of the game. And then you get drivers like Thomas Fock, who's just out there on a soaking track on a set of the hard tyres and just having a bit of a laugh, which is fair enough. You know, it's just how different people like to drive the cars. Some of them like to be in a good mood and relaxed. Some of them like to have the laser focus of a professional racing driver. And it is all really up to personal preference. Janis Volburn's actually out there on the slick soft. I wonder if the track's drying. It doesn't really look... I mean, there's a bit of a dry line that's formed, but it doesn't look like that we've got... But I don't think the rain's stopped. I mean, Thomas Vock isn't exactly lapping incredibly fast. There's Yannis Volburn on the softs, and again, very cautious into the corners. And you can see the rain is still coming down, but maybe the dry line is strong enough. I'm not sure. I'll have to wait and see. Checkered flag out in the warm-up session. So final chance for the drivers to make their last-minute checks before the formation lap. Yannis Volburn, bit of a drift there, putting on a show for the fans, which I always shout at Yannis Volburn for this. He's got my favourite helmet on the grid. I'm definitely not a massive Sebastian Vettel fanboy at heart, and that Seb Vettel-inspired helmet really works magic on me. And, well, the two Holland Racing Team cars with a row 5 lockout as well, P9 and 10, in some pretty strong positions. Let's see how they're going to fare in the races moving forward. And it could be very interesting as Yannis Volburn comes to the final corner. You know what? The soft tyres actually don't look that bad. I mean, you get offline a little bit, and it's not great, and I think he's just going to line up a practice start here. But on the dry line, as he actually teleports himself back to the pit lane, of course, you are allowed to do that in the warm-up. You're not allowed to in the race of the qualifying. If you hit the escape key in R-Factor 2, that sends you back to the pits. In qualifying in the race, that is an immediate DNF. And you warm-up, you are allowed to do that. As that's the warm-up all done and dusted. But, I mean, obviously, when the race starts, there won't be a dry line immediately if it is wet at the start of the race. So I presume that most of the drivers will be starting on the intermediates, if not the wets. But Yannis Volburn, actually, the behaviour of the car didn't actually look too bad when it was online. When it was offline, a little bit sketchy, to put it politely. But we'll have to wait and see. As, well, just waiting for the final few cars to finish the lap times. Then we'll teleport our way onto the grid. And, well, it's a bit of a jankier move. I mean, R-Factor 2 is a game from 2013, so you've got to give it a pinch of salt. The game lags out, then a teleport the way into the grid, and then we get going on the formation lap. And then 61 laps once those 5 red lights blink out of the Marina Bay street circuit here in Singapore, under the night lights and under the thick clouds, it would seem as well, with the rain. Well, it's coming down pretty hard, to put it mildly. Hello and welcome to GPVWC Superleague 2022, with only a handful of rounds left in the calendar. My name is Ross McIntyre, and I'll be bringing you all of the action from tonight, hopefully with Caitlin Penny alongside me, but she's just having a few technical issues on her end. Of course, hopefully she gets that sorted, and she'll be back in to lead the way. It's not a GPVWC Superleague race without Caitlin Penny on board, let me tell you, it's not the same. But I'll do my best to cover for her, shall we say, as we just wait for the game for its final few minutes to load in, sort itself out, and then we will get racing here in Singapore. As the drivers, I'm sure, just last words of encouragement from the teams. I'm sure they'll all be on a Discord voice chat or a TeamSpeak voice chat or whatever, with a team boss or an engineer or their teammates sometimes, just discussing strategy, race plan, and just, you know, bidding each other the best of luck. It is a real family community here at GPVWC. A lot of love really goes out to everybody out on the track. One thing I have noticed, no Burst Esport tonight. They had a pretty torrid time last time at Monza. Mitchie Hoyer running a superb race after a poor qualifying and then just getting caught up in incident after incident. Robin Pansar, his teammate as well. The Burst guys weren't too popular after that one, to put it politely, within the GPVWC community. They're a no-show this weekend, so hopefully we'll be seeing them back. But maybe they're putting their priorities into other championships. I know that Burst and Mitchie and Robin do like to do a lot and, well, perform at different levels throughout the sim racing sphere. And maybe GPVWC not their priority this evening on this Thursday night. But hopefully we'll be seeing them back shortly. As, well, apparently I've been told by that Robin is here, and actually I've just remembered that he is here. I do apologise. I just forgot that he was on track. And actually I can see the Burst Esport garage there. So he clearly is here. If you just look behind the circuit map, there's the empty garage on the right of Mitch, and on the left, just hidden behind the overhang over the track, there's Robin. So I was actually completely wrong. But Mitchie's a no-show, so hopefully Mitchie back for the next round. Round 14, getting really into the crunch time of the season now. which is quite scary to say the least. Of course, we'll be heading all the way to Japan, to the Suzuka International Circuit, or the virtual version of it anyway. As we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen. But as we're just waiting for the cars to teleport onto the grid, that was a bit of a game having a moment there, so hopefully won't be too far away.
I made it.
And Caitlin's back. There we go. So I don't have to suffer, and you don't have to suffer listening to me. Welcome back, Caitlin.
Aw, thank you. Yeah, sorry about that. My entire PC just froze up, and I was not too surprised actually, because it has been playing up ever since I turned it on. But I'm back in time for the race. Jolly good. It was good to see the end of the qualifying session on my tiny little phone screen. So close in the end, actually. 3 different drivers within 1/10 of a second. Around a lap as long as this one is in the rain is quite something. Of course, the field was relatively spread out towards the back, but that's to be expected in conditions such as that. Looks to be a little bit drier for the start of the race. I'm sure you've just been talking about that. Some of the drivers in warm-up were out there on slick tyres, giving them a test, which was a little bold. But we may see some more drivers doing that now at the start of the race. We have a 61 lap race ahead of us, so the longest in terms of expected time on the calendar. Of course, not quite the longest in terms of length. It's just that this happens to be quite a low average speed circuit, and being a similar length to the others, that means that it tends to be longer. Only Monaco has a slower average speed than Singapore, although of course at Monaco they reduce the number of laps as a result of that. To the grid go the cars, and when they get underway we will be able to see the full order that they will be lining up in at the start, Russ.
Yeah, so here we go. Cars making their way onto the grid in preparation for the formation lap. And there is Stefan Roll, not Stefan Roll, I've got them all mixed up, the edge drivers. I don't know why, but it's Masej Minek, should I say, who leads them away from pole position. Leon Bock alongside him with Jeffrey Fournier. A great qualifying for him in P3. Yannick Bock, championship leader, only managing 4th on the grid, directly behind his brother as well. Let's see how that unfolds with Stefan Roll. There we go, got it right that time. He starts P5. Robin Pantsar for Burst. The one Burst driver tonight starts in 6th, with Shimon Frelich in 7th and Daniel Stepkovsky in P8. So it looks like there's been a few grid penalties potentially. The HRT Euro 5, Janis Volburn and Thomas Harvey, with Jake Denahan 11th and Eris Masculi, another strong qualifying for him as well, down in P12. Thomas Vack starts P13 with Chris Shepherd in 14th. Philip Hush was 16th. Fabio Sixter in the other Scuderia Pacini, the number 66 car. He starts in P16. P17 is Hygo Poom with Matthias Moos in 18th. Stephen Lexau was 19th on MDR's return to the grid for the first time in a long time this season. Jan Dragoon starts in P20. P21, Jukka-Pekka Lalu with Vincent Gutton 22nd. Dylan Platt is 23rd, and Dan Hayek in the other Green Stripes car starts in P24 in the 11, and then last on the grid, not setting a time in qualifying, is David Young.
So 25 drivers then, more than enough to make an exciting Singapore Grand Prix. And how many of those will still be there at the end of the race? Place your bets, because this is going to be one of the most treacherous starts of the calendar. And with such a long race as well, your concentration, your mental ability to function and to concentrate is going to be very, very tricky here. According to that graphic as well as mine, Janis Volburn is the only driver on track on slick tyres. It says they're hards, but it says that they are soft tyres on my live timing screen. So actually I may be reading that wrong, because they go purple when they're soft on that, don't they? Yeah, so I expect he most likely is starting on hards here. Vincent Gert and Dan Hayek are in the pits, presumably trying to leave it to the last second to see what they can start the race on, and also potentially doing that to try to stay out of any potential drama that might happen at the start of this race. And there may be some, unfortunately, because even though these are some very good drivers with some excellent spatial awareness and top-notch driving ability, as now Dylan Platt has gone back to the pits as well, they still are susceptible to making mistakes when they're so tightly packed together. They can sometimes just slightly misread the drivers around them, and in conditions like that, that can lead to a bit of a pile up. Dylan Platt, meanwhile, has exited the pits on dry tyres, so it looks as if there are going to be at least two cars out there on slicks. Yannis Vorburn, Dylan Platt. Of course, we still have two other drivers in the pits who are on inters by the looks of things. And onto the grid we go. So 5 red lights will light up at the front of the grid on that gantry that you see. And when they go out, we will be underway for 61 laps of racing here at Singapore in Marina Bay. 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and go, go, go. Away we head. Stefan Rohr gets a decent start. Looks as if the blocks are just as quick, though. Both of them still there, and there is contact in behind. There are cars banging wheels, but I think they've just about got away with it, and around goes one of the E-Team Hard cars, Daniel Stepkowski, losing places. I think it was him, unfortunately. So he's been spun around. At the front, the order stayed the same. It's still Winnick, Bock, Fournier, and then Bock. And now Royal in 5th position, and the field continuing down the straight. I don't have my game open, so I can't exactly see what's going on at the back, but it did look as if Daniel Stepkowski was involved, and hopefully everyone's got through with their wings still attached. Do you see anything more than I do, Ross?
No, looks all clean up the front, and actually Minak as well, really making those hard tyres work, which is quite surprising. I thought it was going to be a struggle in the opening laps for any of the slick shed runners, but yeah, looking through the field, it all looks clean apart from the initial contact, and I don't think anyone lost any wings, which is the main thing. But as we keep going around very close to the back of the car in front, Jake Dennehan looking to force a move on Robin Panzer. Masej Minek just about holding on to his lead from Leon Bock. Yannick Bock's made his way past Jeffrey Fournier at the start as well, so got himself into a good position. But yeah, Masej Minek making a huge gamble to go out on those hard tyres. Seems to be paying off for the time being. But is that just because he's corking up the pack behind? Leon Bock has paced it away from Yannick Bock. Is he just maybe trying to look for a way through but can't? I mean, that's one of the massive advantages here of Singapore. And actually, I say the hard tyres, actually the intermediates. The game had a moment. R-Factor sometimes does that, so I do apologise where the tyres sharp wrong at the start of the race. So Masej Minek actually on the intermediates. So my fears have not been incorrect, or have not been correct, rather should I say. Fabio Sixter looks like he's left out of the race already. I think he may have put himself in the wall. That's a shame for him early on, or maybe internet issues once again for Fabio Sixter. That'd be a real shame, and well, I don't know how many times he's retired from this season due to internet issues, but that is a real shame. It's been the last 3 rounds in a row. Looks like it could be making it that 4, but it is Masej Minek who leads the way. Jan Dragoon running a little bit wide, and just behind them, Yannis Vorburn on those hard tyres. He's gone backwards since his opening lap, dropping from P10 down to P15 now, so it looks early on. The hard tyres, not the tyres to be in, but what he's probably gambling on is that the track dries up quick enough that he can take the pit stop time away from it, that he can carry on while the rest of the drivers come in for pit stops and gain time that way. But down to P17, he's getting swamped by the drivers on those intermediate tyres, and I'm ashamed to say that Yannis Vorburn, I think, has made the wrong decision there.
Indeed. Unfortunately, Dan Hayek and Aris Masciuli also had to come into the pits at the end of the opening lap, so presumably they were involved in various incidents as well. And Fabio Sixter, of course, out of the race. That is actually his 9th retirement in a row in GPVWC Superleague, which is crazy, crazy stuff. He hasn't scored points since France 2020, and that has got to hurt for a driver who is much better than those statistics show. The majority of his retirements have been internet related. So we now have both of the Evolution Motorsports drivers in the top 3 on the podium, chasing Maciej Winnick. Maciej, of course, Yannick's main challenger to the crown. Leon Bock is slightly closer in terms of points, although when it comes to teammates, you tend to have one who plays second fiddle to the others. And even though that may be unintentional from Leon Bock, he has filled that role throughout the championship, and especially at this point, he will probably be helping Yannick in his fight with Maciej. More yellow flags out there somewhere. Unfortunately, like I said before, I'm not in the server, so I can't tell you exactly what's going on. My computer is not allowing it today. Yannis Vollburn dropped 10 positions at the start, and although he didn't come into the pits, that shows that he potentially was involved in whatever happened. I want to have a look back at the bumping and banging that took place heading down to turn 1 on the first lap, and Fournier's up the inside. Fournier going for Yannick here. Yannick running out wide over the sausage curb, and I think Fournier is going to get that place. He does. Oh, that was close as they both turned in for the right-hander, but the positions are restored to what they were in qualifying, with Fournier third and Yannick in fourth place. And it's good to see some racing so early on in the race as well. They're not settling in thinking, oh, I guess I'll wait till the first pit stop. They are properly going for it here. The order has been shaken up in plenty of ways in the early stages. Now, as I was saying, I do want to have a quick look back at what happened going down to the start, the first corner on that first lap. It looked as if it all kind of started with Raw. I wonder if he checked up a bit. There might have been I don't think there was any lag. It may have just been that the braking zone was there, and it happened earlier than the Adonis car behind him was expecting. It could have been Shimon Frelich potentially. It could also. Do we have another Adonis car here today? I don't think we do. So it must have been Shimon Frelich. Unless I'm missing something, but yes, it was those two who made contact, and then both of them, as well as Robin Pansar, did an excellent job to hold it and make sure that their cars wouldn't spin, because it looked as if they were going to, and somehow they got away with it.
Yeah, very, very lucky indeed for those guys, but yeah, heading backwards, unfortunately. I'm not sure the gamble's going to pay off, but you can see there a dry line is forming. Can't quite tell from the trackside shots if the rain is still falling, but well, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, there is a very dry line that is forming, so it could be maybe we see some cars taking the gamble, perhaps not up the front just yet. Too early in the race for them, I think, to be willing to take that risk, but further back in the pack, we'll have to wait and see. Maybe some of the drivers. Oh, Jake Dennehan, all sorts of sideways as he looks for a way past Stefan Rolt, who's just holding him up a little bit here. Jake Dennehan has had a lightning start to this race, hasn't he? Gone from P11 all the way up to the P6 and now looking to fight for P5. There's again wobbles from all of the drivers. It is a dry line forming, but it's still a bit damp out there. The car's still a little bit unstable as well. It doesn't help that tread. Of course, it's not a slick tyre. They don't have full contact packed patch with the road, and as well, the wet and the intermediate tyres actually slightly larger in diameter as well. That's to help with water clearance, but a byproduct of that is that the car naturally sits a little bit higher, so you lose downforce from the underfloor of the car, which then means you've got less grip as well. So it's, really is damned if you do, damned if you don't on the slicks, or on the wets rather, in the inter, should I say. So that might be another, perhaps another incentive to gamble onto the slick tyres, is that you get that extra grip, not just from the tyre, but also you get the more mechanical downforce. We see that some of the drivers coming to lapped. Looks like David Hayek, they're making their way past. Yeah, a track by Singapore where downforce is so crucial, especially from the underfloor, because the dirty air is really nasty around here sometimes. As Munich, their fastest lap of the race up the front, maybe trying to break the gap from Bock a little bit, but still sits at 0.5 of a second. No DRS allowed yet, even with this dry line. Of course, we don't have a active race stewards. It's all done in game in terms of when is DRS decided to be allowed. It's to do with the percentage of the water level that it makes the call, and stewarding decisions regarding penalties are done post-race by the GPVWC stewarding committee, and that's a noise from Caitlin.
Yeah, DRS is open, look. We saw, and here goes a move from Jake Dennehan. Oh, very close. Yeah, we saw last time at Italy, the DRS was opened very, very early. I think when it became about 15% wet on track. It looks to be about that now, so DRS has been activated. That's pretty scary, actually, because there are some small kinks in the DRS straights here, where the drivers can potentially lose control. And there are some drivers out there on slick tyres on a damp track. It is drying still, but clearly the slick tyres weren't the ones to be on earlier on in the race. Here's Yannis Vollburn, the top driver on slicks, and he had a really bad start, as I pointed out, dropped about 10 positions as a result of well, I don't know if he had an incident or something, but he certainly dropped back, partly as a result of starting on hard compound of tyres. And all of the other drivers who have been into the pits as well have now gone on to slick tyres, so I'll be able to watch their lap times and tell you about how they're progressing. Actually, I tell you what, Daniel Stepkowski, since making his stop for slicks, has set the fastest lap of the race. So is it now time to start seriously thinking about changing over? Vauban's now quickest in the second sector. I'd say it's getting there, Ross. This is looking good.
Yeah, so maybe.
And Leon Bock's in the pits. Leon Bock is pitting for slicks, I presume. He's in the pits from second place in the race. So Jeffrey Fournier is through, as is Yannick Bock. Those are now the drivers rounding out the podium. Stefan Rohr is in. Matthias Moos is in. They have both seen the lap times of the drivers at the back of the field and thought, yep, it is absolutely time. So in they come for their stop. Leon exiting now, and those look like the hard tyres to me, so he will be aiming to run long. It looks as if they're not expecting it to rain again anytime soon, because otherwise they would likely have gone for a shorter stint on on softer tyres. Jeffrey Fournier now the fastest driver on track on the inters, so it's still very close between the two. But Stepkowski might be about to take the fastest lap back again, and he does. So still, the slick tyres, the tyres to be on, and even though Fournier is still trying, I don't think it's going to be long before the drivers at the front of the field are forced to pit in order to cover off the likes of Leon Bock and Stefan Rohr. So an intriguing point in the race. And another thing to notice is that because we're not far from the start, Yannis Vauban's put himself in a very strategic place by being the top driver on slick tyres. He's going to go, he's only been on those slicks about 5 laps longer than Leon Bock has. So actually, he's genuinely ahead of Leon right now, and Leon is going to have to pass him on track if he's to,
he's just
get
done
through.
that, actually, but...
Oh, he has, never mind.
Well, another thing that Yannis Vauban has the advantage of, though, is that he's now got the confidence on the slick tyres. He knows what he's able to do on the slick tyres. Coming out of the pits for anybody who decides to pit in the next couple of laps, as we wait to see if anyone else takes the gamble.
Yeah.
As there goes Yannick Bock, championship leader, following him, and Jake Danahan as well. Looks like Thomas Harvey, was that in? No, it's Shimon Frelick. But 3 of the front runners all making the call, and the championship leader, one of them. This is a crucial moment in the race. Only lap 7, and they've already decided the time for slicks is now. Yannick Bock, a pretty good stop there. Leon Bock. Actually, Yannis Vauban's got back through him, so he's being held up by the traffic here. He's going to jump his brother in the pits as well, I think. Let's wait to see where Yannick Bock is. Yes, he is. So Yannick Bock, actually... Oh, no, he's going to squeeze up the inside of his brother, is he? Yes, he is, because Leon Bock gets on the wet stuff, as does Yannick, but he's got the inside line, and he gets through. Championship leader overcut working, because Leon Bock just came out in the traffic of Yannis Vauban as Daniel Stepkowski says the fast lap. I think he's still on the intermediates.
Yeah. No, he's on the slicks.
He is on the slicks, so it's definitely time to go then.
And there might be a move here from Jake Danahan. Well, he took a look, didn't he? But didn't want to get on the wet patch in the braking zone, and wisely so. Now, this lot is back behind Vauban again. Of course, Leon Bock briefly got past him, and then they swapped once again. So Vauban still the top driver on slicks, and he's now all the way up to 6th place. Also into the pits on that last lap came Poom, Dragoon, Lalo and Lexo, and as well as a couple of the drivers further back in the order. The drivers a couple of laps down now. It looks as if Dylan Platt and Dan Hayek are 2 laps down each, and Fabio Sixter has rejoined the race. Has he? No, that's not true. Okay, well, according to the timing screen he had, but I don't think that is true because he's still showing up as a DNF on the actual server. There's a yellow flag out there in Sector 2, and it looks as if Thomas Harvey might be dropping a little. Thomas Harvey dropping places down to 16th place now. There he is, and he's lost his front wing, I think. Look at that. Yes, he has. So Thomas Harvey has had an incident somewhere, and that is why he dropped down the order, because he has no front downforce coming from the front wing that used to be there. He's going to have to get out of the way of the drivers coming through, and points going missing there for Thomas Harvey. There's Philip Puschke in the pits, and so is Tomasz Wok. So it's pretty much only the top 3 out there on Inters right now. Maciej Winnick, Jeffrey Fournier, and Robin Panzer. The other drivers out there on Inters are David Yunt, and that's it actually. It's just David Yunt running in 18th position. Apart from him, it's the top 3. Ignore Puschke because he has now come out on slicks. I presume that just hasn't quite updated itself yet. He is on slick tires as I look. Still Harvey in the pits. I think, yes, so Platt and Hayek are now out of the race, which is why they are a couple of laps down. 22 cars remaining, all of those on the lead lap just about, and the majority of them on slick tyres now, with Jake Dennehan going fastest of anyone in the first sector.
I'd like to formally apologise to Yannis Volberg for doubting his strategy. I mean, at the start of the race, it looked pretty clear that the slick tyre just wasn't the one to be in, but it's worked out so well. And because it's so wet off of that dry line, you can't really risk going for an overtake heading into the corners.
Yeah.
Suddenly you've got no grip and you're just going to go straight into a wall or into your opponent. So you're looking at Yannick Bock, Leon Bock, who are probably faster as Mienick dives in, presumably Fournier and Panzer. No, Fournier stays out. So Fournier takes the lead. Does Panzer dive in as well?
Fournier has long been the fastest driver on the Inters, so he's still comfortable on those tyres, but there's going to become a point where they're just not viable anymore. Panzer goes through, so Panzer also stays out now. It's just the top 2 on Inters, and of course David Yunt, who seems to be doing his own thing. But Winnick has been into the pits, and through come the train. Vorburn, Bock, Menahan is going to be close on pit exit. Where's Maciej Winnick? Shimon Frelich fastest of anyone. There is a car slowing on the exit of the pits. That wasn't Maciej Winnick. And Winnick has come out just ahead of them. Maciej has come out just ahead of Yannis Vorburn, who's on the warmer tyres. So can he attack later on in the lap? Keep your eyes up for that. But that was very close there. Stefan Rohr now fastest of anyone. And the other car you saw there was Thomas Harvey. So Harvey, after exiting the pits, still going fairly slowly, missing his front wing, and he's DNF'd. So Thomas Harvey exited the pits and then decided better of it and has retired from the race. I think Matthias Moos is losing places now, the latest driver to appear to be in a bit of drama, and he's now into the pits himself. But yeah, so it's Rohr fastest. Winnick now is the top driver on slick tyres, and he's the driver who will be pushing to try to take over the positions of Fournier and Panzer when they come into the pits. He could be the net leader.
So we'll have to wait and see. Message Minute got away with it there. Dennehan tried to get the exit out of the corner, but again, just on the wet stuff. No traction. I mean, it's clear to see these guys are caught in this cork in the bottle. They're caught in this train and there's dry. I mean, I think it's safe to say Yannick Bock is definitely faster than Yannis Vorburn. Dennehan looks faster than Leon Bock of this phase. But there's just no way through because you step off the dry line and suddenly you're on an ice rink because you're on slick tyres on a very, very wet track. You've just got to sit on that dry portion of the racetrack and you've just got to deal with it. So there's a lot of drivers losing a lot of time here. Maciej Minnick is in a very, very tasty position. We've got to see where Fournier and Panzer come out. They're all rounding the final corner now. This battle for the lead could be about to heat up. Where's Fournier? That's Panzer, so he's getting done. Where's Fournier? I think he's been as well.
Fournier stayed out.
I do apologise, but looking at the times, when he does come in, he's going to be in a similar place to Robin Panzer. He's the pit stop. It's about 22 seconds you lose, 23 seconds if it's a slow stop. As Panzer actually fighting for P10 with Philip Puschke there and losing out on P10 just on the wet stuff coming out of the pits. Again, you've got to remember.
So Puschke gets P9 there, Panzer down to P10, and Fournier will be in a very similar position. He was about 2 seconds ahead, so he might just about jump Puschke, but not if Puschke's lap is quick enough here. Jan Dragoon losing places as I saw another brief yellow flag. That's a little ominous, but anyway. Yannis Vorburn here. Yeah, like you were saying, we doubted his strategy at the start because he lost 10 positions on the opening lap. But the important thing was that he didn't lose enough compared to the drivers who made their pit stops. So he actually came out in the lead of the race pretty much. Of course, he never actually led a lap on the road, but he was in the net lead for a little while before Maciej overtook him on the road. another brief yellow flag. A couple of drivers back in the pits. Stepkowski came in on that last lap. Oh, what was that? That's the rear wing going from Shimon Frelik's car. So Shimon has hit the wall, and it's the rear wing, and that's going to be very tricky to get back to the pits now, especially in the wet conditions on slick tyres with no rear downforce. It's the last thing that you want to be doing in a race like this one. But that's a difficult corner, even in the dry. It's easy to overshoot. And Shimon now will struggle to score points in this race. It looks as if he just got out of shape in the braking zone, maybe, and then came into the corner way too fast and hit the wall way earlier than they usually hit it. We're going to see a replay of something, presumably the Shimon incident. Well, here he is attempting to make it back to the back to the pits, and as I speak, I think he may have just about got it back. Yes, he has actually. He's got it back to the pits, and here's what happened. Way too fast, wide, and smacks the barriers. Suspension damage as well, which is going to make his pit stop even longer than it would be otherwise. And yes, that's pretty much race over for Shimon Frelik there. Now, race continues. Stefan Roll, still the fastest driver and setting fastest laps every time through. He's been the fastest the last 3 laps of this race, and he's been about 4 seconds faster than Geoffrey Fournier on average. So Fournier is going to really struggle here unless he pits very soon. I'm surprised he hasn't already pitted. Philip Pushke losing places. I think something may have happened there to Philip Pushke, and there he is. It looks as if he's slowed and maybe rejoining from a spin, something along those lines, down in P12 now. And that's allowed Chris Shepherd up into the top 10, Ross.
It has indeed. So Fournier, he's losing a lot of time to Massage Minec, so he's surely got to be coming in. I mean,
and there's been a move. Yannick Boxer has got up into 3rd position, and there it is. So Yannick has gone through in a very unusual part of the circuit, goes up into 3rd place in this race. Now Fournier there, you saw, was almost being caught by drivers who are a lap down. He is really struggling at this point. He's being caught hand over fist, it seems, by some of those drivers, and still stays out. He's not in the pits as we speak. Still leads by about, well, it was about 17.5 seconds. Now down to 13.6. So he's losing 4 seconds a lap to Maciej Winnick now as well, and it was 4 seconds on that last time around. He's really hoping that it's going to start raining again, but his tyres might actually wear themselves out by that point. Anyway, keep your eyes on it. We doubted someone's strategy earlier on, and then it turned out to be the right one to be on. So anyway, here's Jake Denahan trying to line up Leon Buck for 5th position. I'll allow you to speak now, Ross, because I kind of interrupted you there.
No, it's no problem.
When Yannick went for the move, but yeah, he's now up into 3rd.
No, it's no problem, Caitlin. Please go right ahead. I'm all for getting interjected with good points and moments on board with Jake Denahan at the for the time being. And well, it was a great move by Yannick Bock there. I mean, I'm sure that would have been hard on the anchors with a bit of a wing and a prayer as well on the wet patch. But managed to just about get it stopped and get it up the inside as well, which is awesome to see. And now Jake Denahan looking for his way past Leon, who's coincidentally looking for his way past Yannick. Just been told by our producer it might be raining now against something. Yeah, you can actually see in that shot it started to rain again. So Geoffrey Fournier could have been waiting it out for the weather. Suddenly we could be on something here, because if it's raining again, he might be coming good, because suddenly everyone might be diving back into the pits for wets again. So if it starts raining hard enough, Geoffrey Fournier could have just pulled off a masterstroke here. No, he's coming in. He's coming in.
So I wish that I was in the server right now, because in the server you can see what percentage of dampness is on the track. Geoffrey needed to pit, really. He should probably have done it sooner, although who am I to doubt the strategy of someone who's out there doing it, racing the race that I'm not in. Stops in his box, just very nearly overshot it. Goes on to, well, that looks like another set of inters, but when we get out on track, I think it's probably going to change, and it does. He's on a set of slicks, and out of the pits he goes now. Please don't be another yellow flag in Sector 1. And through go a few of the drivers that he was racing with. That's Hygo Poom now in P8. Robin Panzer was the driver who came in behind him, and is now a couple of cars ahead of him in the train there. So that shows you that the inters were not the tyre to be on right then. Still Eris Masculi out there on inters, so maybe it is raining again. But for now it doesn't look to be particularly hard. live timing does have the raining graphic, but I thought that had stayed there the whole time. So maybe it was just sprinkling a bit and now it's got slightly heavier. I think it tends to be about 15% dampness when the drivers start to equal the intermediate tyre lap times. Of course, the best indicator of it is going to be the lap times themselves. They're still running about 5 seconds quicker than their quali pace, so it's nowhere near as wet as it was at the time. They're nearly at the fastest times we've seen so far today. There are drivers out there setting their personal bests, but we haven't seen the best lap of the race for a couple of laps now. So keep your eyes open. But anyway, Marco Furlich has just messaged me saying that Fournier going longer probably means he's trying to do a pit stop less than the others. That is absolutely true. The only difficulty, of course, is that if you do that and you lose too much time through staying out, it may actually make a pit stop's worth of time all by itself. And he was losing 4 seconds per lap, which is quite extreme. But like I said, he's the guy out there actually doing it. Daniel Stepkowski did just set the fastest lap of the race of anyone, so if it is raining again, it's not raining particularly heavily. I think I do see a few drops out there, but it's still dry enough and still fast enough for the drivers to set their personal best and overall best laps of the race, Ross.
Well, my computer's just telling me the weather for where I am, and it says rain to stop. So maybe you got to take that as some soothsaying for the future in this race in virtual Singapore. I mean, the Garden of England, I don't think it's quite the same as the tropical climate that we're viewing here, as that's Jake Dennehan then trying to get Leon Bock after his aborted attempt, but unable to find a way through. I mean, you've also got to take into account R-Factor 2's graphics. I mean, again, 2013, there's been a lot of updates to R-Factor over the years with graphics especially, but the rain animations, I don't think they're one of them. So sometimes the rain, it's actually falling quite lightly in physics terms, but it looks quite heavy on camera and vice versa as well. So you've really got to take it with a pinch of salt. That was a really poor X from that corner from Leon Bock. Surely with the DRS, Jake Dennehan looking up the inside on the wet stuff. Can he get it stopped? No. He backs out early. So that was where Yannick Bock dived up the inside and made the move. And again, look at the pace that Jake Dennehan has. He's clearly the fast driver at the moment, but just no way through. Such is the nature of street circuits. Such is the nature of slick tyres on a drying track. You've just got to pick your moment and pick it well. Dennehan, unfortunately, just stuck behind Leon Bock in P5. As Masej Minek in almost 3 seconds ahead of Yannick Bock. He's clearly the one to beat in this race at the moment.
The drivers are really scared of that wet line, it seems. They're really not wanting to make the overtake there. Shimon Frelich, of course, got on that damp patch, and that's why he hit the wall so early in the corner at exactly that point. And obviously Jake Dennehan just not wanting to befall the same fate as they continue on in the race. Shimon is still running, by the way, and actually not that far out of the points. So even though that will cost him, it doesn't appear to have cost him his only chance of points today. Here comes Jake Dennehan. In fact, if you continue in this race and you finish it, you stand a very good chance of scoring points anyway. Who just lost places there? It was one of the top drivers. Jeffrey Fournier may have... Oh, it's Hygo Poom he's had an accident. Hygo Poom's lost both wings on his car. I noticed there was a change in the order, and that will be why there, because that car, you can see him hit the wall again, is not very drivable right now. Philip Pushke also losing places again. Was he involved, maybe? Shepard just dropped... Oh, Shepard and Rort might be side by side as we speak. There they are. And they'll be catching Poom now, and they'll pass him when he comes into the pits, if not before then. But yeah, there's been an incident out there somewhere on circuit, and unfortunately, Hygo Poom has now got a Formula Ford car.
Yeah, that's the nature of sim racing, unfortunately. It doesn't always go your way, but a big shame for Hygo Poom. There's Stefan Rolt looking for a way past Chris Shepard, but again, as with so many other drivers out there tonight, Stepkowski sets the fastest lap of the race. Just not able to find a way through. In Singapore, overtaking is tough at the best of times, but when it's wet offline, it's practically impossible. As that's a car off the road there, just in the foreground of the shot. Poom. Oh, that was Poom coming back on the circuit. I do apologise. So Poom making his way back onto the circuit. We've got a replay here, actually, of what's happened. There is Hygo, and well, he's already not got a front wing there, and even harder into the wall. So that is a pretty sorry-looking Epic Racing car as he makes his way back.
Let's see what happened earlier on in the lap, if that's okay. So when he actually had the incident, Tom is just trying to get that for us now, but I think we have the replays not working.
There we go.
There we are. It's going to happen into this corner now. Turn 4 is where it's taken place. He's following the burst car, Robin Panzer.
Oh, just too much speed into the corner.
Bang! That's a big hit. In real life, he wouldn't be driving it out at that point. He's lucky that he still has the rear wheels and the torque to get out of that situation. But, I mean, his race is as good as over, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of sim racing, you could drive away from that, but yeah, just too much speed into the corner for the rear tyres. I mean, following in the dirty air as well, it's going to cause your tyres to overheat. You know, even when it's raining here at Singapore, it is always hot, even at night. Just such a tropical climate. And yeah, just maybe overheating tyres in the dirty air, too much speed into the corner, round it went and well. At a street circuit, if you made a mistake, 9 times out of 10, you're a passenger with a one-way ticket to the outside barrier. Big shame there for Hygo Poom, but he's still in the race and still going round. Well, he's coming to the pits. He's been in the pits for quite some time, so looks like he's intending to carry on. We've only got 21 cars left in this. We've lost Sixter, Hayek, Platt, and Thomas Harvey, unfortunately. Poom may be looking to come out. He might be able to salvage something from this if the rain intensifies. And again, a race of attrition, as always, here in Singapore. It's only lap 16, and as I said, lost 4 cars.
Oh.
So I've got to take it into account, as that was an all from Caitlin. And on screen as well, we've got Jake Denahan still all over the back of Liam Bock.
No, sorry, I was just surprised because they were all getting out of shape through there. I was surprised they all made it through. But yeah, nose to tail between this bunch now. We've got Yannick at the front, although he's actually cleared off now, so 7 seconds ahead of Yannis Walburn. It's Yannis now in 3rd place. And then Leon, Bock, Jake Denahan, and Thomas Rock right on the tail. Jeffrey Fournier is catching as we speak as well. Still one driver out there on Inters, Eros Masculi in 14th place. Still giving it a go, hoping that the weather changes in his favour. But Machin Winnick actually setting a personal best lap of the race that last time through, as is Jeffrey Fournier as he catches up to the fight that we're currently watching. And Yannis holding up the pack, but that's showing that he's doing his job well, you know? It's not a bad thing that he's holding people up. He's not doing anything out of order here. It shows that he's out of the position that he would potentially be in. Otherwise, there may have been something taking place there. I think Lalu's lost a place in that. And Rault's out. Stefan Rault is out of the race. I saw there was a yellow flag. Our reigning champion is the victim this time. He's come up as a DNF and he's not on the track anymore. So something has just taken place. It looked as if he was maybe side by side with Lalu, maybe swapping places. There were a couple of changes on my timing screen at about that point. And it's all over now, Russ.
Yeah, that's a big shame for Stefan Rault, another victim. And again, as I said, a race of attrition. You can be one of the strongest drivers on the grid, the reigning champion even, and still the streets of Singapore, they're a cruel mistress, and they will catch you out. As Mielek there, fastest lap of the race, 1:45.252. Still not up to full pace if it's full dry, as we see there on the inside. Volburn decides to finally box, so he's gone as far as he can on that set of tyres, but only lap 18 on the hards. So he must have been really pushing them to try and get the grip in the wet again. And when you are running slick tyres in the wet, if you want to make them work, you have to work them. You've got to push like there is no tomorrow on the tyres just to generate some heat and generate some grip and get that rubber moving under the car, and it really does take it out from you. And it can work, and we saw with Yannis Volburn as the track started to dry, it did work. And unfortunately, lap 18 was as far as he could go. He finally admits defeat and comes into the box. Got a replay here of what happened to Stefan Rault as the onboard of the car in the pit garage.
Get it in a second.
Well, apparently it broke the halo off, but that's surely just him turning it off in the settings, of course, for the drivers, many of them running single screen monitors, so you can turn the halo off in game for yourself. So on board with, oh wow, and that's what I was saying at the start of the broadcast. Under the bridge with the DRS, hit a dry patch, and suddenly the car is not going where it needs to go. I've had that happen to me before. It is heartbreaking, and it can happen to absolutely anyone, and this time it's happened to the reigning champion, Stefan Rault.
Only lost his front wing, but decided that was enough. Just went straight on and into the wall again. Seemed to be giving up way before that point. So I wonder if he's given up there for Stefan Rault. I'd be surprised. I mean, Stefan doesn't tend to do that. He's not had the best of seasons by his standings, but I mean, he's got 2 victories out of it, and he's still right up there in the higher end of the championship. So he does still have things to play for, you know. I don't know. That's a weird one there, but Stefan Rott out of this race and will not be scoring any points. And that means we have 20 cars remaining. And this is exactly why I'm saying that you stand a very good chance of scoring points if you finish this race, because we're not even a third of the way through yet, and we only have 20 cars of the 25 that started remaining. 15 score points. So if you think about that, in the last the next 2/3 of the race, if we have the same number of retirements, then everyone who finishes is going to be scoring points. Realistically, because the start of the race is the most difficult point, it's usually the most attrition filled of every part of the race, but not necessarily. And of course, at a difficult street circuit like Singapore, with the greasy, damp conditions and the threat of even more rain potentially, attrition could still keep up. And I mean, you've got to finish the race at this point. That's why I'm surprised whenever anyone has a seemingly small accident and decides to give up and retire, because at this point, you don't know how many cars are going to finish this race and where you could finish just by completing it. I mean, think of another famous wet street circuit race, Monaco 96 in Formula 1. You know, 3 cars finished that. You finished that race, you got a podium. You could, I mean, hopefully today's not going to be like that, but you see my point, Russ, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think Monaco, even by Singapore standards, is a whole different beast. I mean, it's so much tighter, so much trickier, but this is, don't get me wrong, it's still a very technical track and the walls are still very close, and it's actually higher speed than Monaco, so you have to bear that in mind. And there are places to overtake, but, well, actually, Caitlin, on a wet circuit, as Shimon Frelick getting shoved out of the way there by Stev Kopsky over and riding the curb. Yeah, you've just got to keep it all 4 wheels on the dry stuff, really. I mean, it's stopped raining again, from what I can tell. I mean, again, it's oh no, it is still spinning a little bit, but again, doesn't seem to be affecting the guys out there too much. So we'll have to wait and see if that increases as the race wears on. Lap 20 of 61, so about a third of the way through. Oh, on the inside. Oh, that's a dive on Jan Dragoon by Hugo Poom with a fresh set of rubber and a new front and rear wing. Again, glory of sim racing. You can damage your car to the point of absolute failure and still haul it back to the pits and have it repaired up spick and span within a couple of minutes. And that's what Heiko Poom's done. Oh, Denahan's tried to go for it. Oh, what a save.
And he's kept his front wing.
That is car control at its finest from Jake Denahan. Wow, wow, wow. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that looked like a lost cause there. Jake did a wonderful job to hang on to it. He has lost time. He's probably lost a second or two in that, but at least he hasn't lost his front or rear wing, which it looked like he might be doing on a number of occasions. First, it looked as if he was going to hit the outside wall. Then it looked as if he was going to hit the inside wall, and he avoided both of them. So Jake Denahan still running in 4th position there. He's been closed up by Thomas Schwach in the process, but it could have been a lot worse. Back to that move by Heiko Poom there. I know he's out of the points right now, but that was a beautiful move onto the Anderson Bridge by Heiko into the hairpin. You very rarely see moves into that corner. It's a curved braking zone, so you're not just, and that's Leon now. Leon Bock into the pits. So only lasted 3 more laps than Yanis Fulburn. It looks as if the drivers might be splitting this race into thirds potentially, which isn't too surprising in a race quite this long, but anyway. But yeah, into a curved braking zone like that, when you're off the dry line, that is honestly, I would have been less shocked to have seen that in the dry. So in the wet, it's amazing stuff. But anyway, more yellows out there somewhere. Keep your eye on the order to see if anything changes. I don't think it did. And Winnick has dropped. And Winnick's crashed! Maciej Winnick has crashed out of the lead of the race! And that is what the yellow flag was for. He's lost his rear wing, and he was running by himself on the track. I think he's only got himself to blame, unless there was a back marker around that point or something along those lines. but that means that both of the edge cars have now hit the barrier at different points. When it was indeed running by himself, it looks as if it was exactly what Jake Dennehan... No, it was later, sorry. It's through there, bang, off goes the rear wing. He only just tagged it, actually, nearly did a full 360 spin and got away with it. If the wall had just been a little further back, he'd probably still be in the lead of the race right now. But he is going to be dropping and pitting, and Yannick Buck leads the race. Russ, what a drama.
Oh, just took a little bit too much curb and unsettled the car. I mean, 9 times out of 10, I'd say that Maciej Minnick has thrown this away and Yannick Bock is about to capitalise, but we have seen this race is just absolutely on fire. So who's that coming into the pits? That's Dennehan, who's trying to come into the pits and has been held up by Minnick. That's Dennehan. Oh, that's a disaster for Jake Dennehan as well, losing heaps of time behind the damaged 96. But as I was going to say, as they make their way in, I mean, Dennehan will jump Minnick, who's got to have a long time for damage repair. 9 times out of 10, I'd say that's race over, you know. Just got to try and pick up a point or two. But it's lap 22 of 61. It's a long race here at Singapore, and we've had so much drama, so many top drivers having issues and finding the wall. So it's not over yet for Maciej Minnick. A long way to go, and anything can and has and will be happening over the remaining 40 or so laps here in the virtual Marina Bay. So maybe that's the best time perhaps for Maciej Minnick to drop it in the race, and it's always better to drop it earlier than later, I suppose, but just, wow, a really rare mistake there for one of our top drivers and a championship contender. Just took too much curb, I think, and just bounced the car around. Wow, very, very strange. Luckily for him, though, as I said, this race has just been absolutely crazy so far. And as we see a massive bit of wing there in the middle of the circuit, hopefully the virtual marshals are able to get to that pretty quickly. But oh, Janis Fulburn does exactly the same. Too much curb. This time he just bounced over it, and he's managed to keep a point straight. But that's my point exactly. Anyone can make a mistake at any time during this race because the track is wet off the dry line. Nobody knows the strategy. Nobody knows the tyres. And because it's Singapore, it's just crazy. So it's not all hope lost yet for Maciej Minnick. He's brought it out to P11 and he's only about 12 or so seconds off Philip Pushka, and he was one of the faster cars out on the circuit. So he's still got time to make up a fair few points here. And coming into the pit stop window, of course, he'll be running an alternate strategy now. And with the chaos that's going to ensue, surely over the remainder of the race, we go on board with Janis Fulburn here and see what happens. I'm sure Maciej Minnick, it's not all doom and gloom. Yeah, just too much curb again for Janis Fulburn. Luckily, he was able to save it. He actually, because he almost straight lined the curb, it actually bounced back down in quite a nice place. But compared to Minnick, who just hit the curb at an angle, it just fired him around. Wow, yeah, very rare and actually quite a schoolboy mistake there from Maciej Minnick. But again, not all doom and gloom just yet. He can still pick up a decent result here.
When did Tomasz Vlok get ahead of Fournier? He's actually been ahead of him for a while, hasn't he? Yes, it's because Fournier lost so much time staying out in the Inters. Yeah, of course. Sorry, my apologies. It's been a difficult race to keep up with, Ross. But anyway, they're getting close again, and this is over second now. Yannick Bock has really gained time on them, has pulled away in all of this. And he now leads this race relatively comfortably. Tomasz Vlok up 13 positions from his starting place there. Jakub Lalo up 17, so it's been a good race for those guys right now. Sorry, 11 positions for Tomasz Vlok. It's difficult to see on my small monitor right now, but anyway. Yeah, so we're just past the third of the way through the race. It's Yannick leading from Tomasz Vlok, then Fournier, Pansar, Shepard, Leon Bock, Fulburn, Dennehan, Lalu, and Pushke, the top 10. And just if you were wondering, because of course Yannick is now leading this race, he would score 25 points at this rate coming away from today. Leon Bock, for finishing 6th, would score 10, which would mean that the championship would theoretically still stay alive. Maciej would only score 5. That would technically keep him in mathematical contention as well, but it would put him right on the brink, and realistically would put him out of contention. I mean, if he's not realistically out of contention then anyway, with Yannick Bock's 55-point championship lead and advantage in this race. Into the pits comes Chris Shepard now. Oh, and a big spin for Jeffrey Fournier, and he holds the brakes, and it's a Max Verstappen style save. He gets passed for 3rd by Robin Pansar, so he has lost a place, but only 1 position. He's going to lose another if he goes over the curb like that. There's another driver right on his tail, but that's actually a lapped car. But yes, an amazing save from Jeffrey Fournier, just as we saw from Jake Dennehan a little while ago. He had the DRS open, but he got on the wet patch through the kink, and around the tail of the car, went faster than he could react to it. At that point, the only thing he could do was hold the brakes. He did, everyone avoided him, and he's maintained his position. Well, didn't quite maintain his position, but he's maintained his status as a continued runner in this race. Look at that on board. Somehow didn't even touch the wall. Wow.
Similar thing to Maciej Minek with the DRS, hits the dry patch under the bridge, round he goes while turning as well. Again, happened to me before while fighting for a lead of another race. It's not the most fun feeling in the world, but that is textbook of what you need to do if your car is pointing 90 degrees to the track. If anyone's watching who's new to sim racing, if you're just getting started, learn from Jeffrey Fournier. If you go round, hold the brakes. Not only does it save you a world of pain if you spin back onto the track and collect another driver who won't be best pleased with you, it keeps you out of the wall as Yannick Bock from the race lead into the pits.
Indeed, about that spin, I was always told, in a spin, left foot in. So you have to brake.
That's quite a good quote, that.
And if you have a clutch, in a spin, both feet in, because of course you want to keep the engine alive. Daniel Stepkowski, I'm afraid, has now retired from the race. I was wondering what that last yellow was, but I think that now explains it. And that's a shame, because Stepkowski is a driver, as Yannick comes out just behind his teammate and brother. But Stepkowski was a driver who was one of the early pace setters in this race. He was setting some of the fastest laps earlier on. His lap times recently have dropped off a bit, I'm afraid. He was going to pit in not too much more time, but yes, unfortunately he won't get a chance now because he has become yet another retirement. So only 19 drivers remaining in this race now. Make that 18 because Jan Dragoon is out. He was just about to maybe go up into the points, but he's not going to get a chance either because Jan is out of this race. So two drivers going out very, very soon, very shortly after each other. I wonder if they, I don't think they were close on track. I don't know if they made contact or anything. Of course, Jan was he was a lap behind the leaders, but I think Stepkowski was close to that as well. I don't think they made contact. I think that was separate, but completely as a coincidence, two drivers have gone out of this race in relatively quick succession, I'm afraid. So 18 drivers remaining in this race, only 15 on the lead lap. The only point scorers are on the lead lap of this race. And now the provisional leaders, Tomasz Wok and Robin Panzer, are separated by less than a second in this race. Yannick is, and there's Robin now taking the lead of this race because into the pits comes Tomasz Wok, and he will come out a few positions behind the two Boks. Leon still leading Yannick, not feeling the need to get out of the way at this point in time, but that's okay. He will probably be making his stop in not too long. Yeah,
so second pit stop phase is coming in again. These drivers are going to have to make another stop. And I tell you what, these hard tyres, they're going 15 laps with the track still wet because the drivers have to push them so hard to get the heat into them. It's going to be another fair few stops if the track stays like this until the end of the race. So strategy could be key, and drivers who are on the alternate strategy, be on their own accord or not, such as Maciej Minek, who, on that note, just steps past someone 144.4. That is flying from one of the championship contenders.
And Moose is out. Matthias Moose becomes yet another retirement, so there's only 17 drivers remaining in this race. What is going on all of a sudden? Ross, we've had 3 drivers DNF in pretty much 3 laps here, and Jakub-Pekka Lalu's moving slowly, and Lalu's being passed there by Philip Pushke. So Pushke goes through. It almost looks like he's giving that place up. Has he made an illegal move somewhere or something like that? Whatever the case, down into 10th place goes Lalu, and now he's back up to speed. So I wonder if he made an illegal move and then gave it back again, or something along those lines. Whatever the case, 9th place now for Philip Pushke, and there are only 17 cars remaining.
Crazy. I mean, my only explanation that comes at the time is that it's the end of the opening stint on these slick tyres for many of the drivers. Maybe just the wear just starting to catch people out, maybe getting on the wet stuff. I mean, it's not ideal to touch the wet track on slicks at all, but it's an even worse idea when your tyres are coming to the end of their life. because what little grip you might have becomes no grip whatsoever because there's just no tread on the tyre, and you're basically just on an ice rink. So that's maybe what's happening, some of the drivers. But then there was 17 as I speak, Yannick Bock. And that is an interesting interpretation to the line through turn 2, but we'll run with it for now, just running a bit wide. Again, a lot of these drivers just really struggling over the last few laps. And so I wonder if the rain started to come down a bit harder maybe as well. Again, we can't really tell from the trackside cameras just because of R-Factor 2's rain graphic is not particularly informative. The track seems to be okay, but suddenly with a lot of drivers struggling, I wonder if the track's getting wetter.
Leon is right on the back of Yannick is right on the back of Leon once again. I do wonder whether he's going to be losing a bit of time there, but anyway, out of the way it goes. That's Shim and Frelick there that they've just passed. Now, one thing that I've noticed is that at this rate, MDR are going to score significant points in this race, Mayor Downard Racing Team, and despite being a team who have missed 10 rounds of this championship now in a row, they're actually going to leave this round off the bottom of the championship standings because Green Stripe aren't going to be scoring. They've lost both of their drivers. It looks as if MDR, on their return today, are on course for a double points finish. Of course, Stephen Lexo currently in 16th place, so not quite, but very nearly a double points finish. And of course, if you get any more DNFs than it might be, this is going very well for them. Not meaning to jinx them or anything. We're not at the halfway point yet or anything, but yes, wouldn't that be an amazing result and a fantastic example of why you've got to continue in races like these? Vincent Gert is currently in the pits for MDR as we're speaking. Matthias Moose is, not back in the race. My timing screen's not updating me on who's out of this race and who isn't, so I have to keep glancing back over at the left screen. Panzer is still out on the road, still leading this race now by 9.8 seconds. We're expecting him to stop soon, but it looks as if Robin's trying to go for one fewer pit stop than the rest of the drivers around him. What would effectively be a one stop, although will technically be a two stopper now that most of the drivers have switched from inters. Well, I guess all of them have switched from inters onto slicks now, but you know what I mean. And that means that Leon and Yannick may have to pass him themselves later on in this race after they stop for the second time. Keep your eye on Robin and what he's doing with this very long second stint of this race. Maciej Winnick has just got back into the top 10 by the looks of things. He's just passed Jukka-Pekka Laulu now. And what a recovery drive so far from Maciej. And there's a front wing, I think. Did you see that, Russ? Am I imagining things? It looked as if there was a front wing lying to the side of the road there. And it's not of either of these two, so it must have come from someone else in this race, if that is indeed what I was seeing. And there it is, and it's Robin Panzer. So Panzer dropping back now, right as I was saying to look out for him. He's going to hold up Volburn through this sector. Volburn! Oh, that was close.
Oh, no.
And
into the wall.
Touches Panzer into the wall. Panzer, of course, already had that damage, but Yanis felt that he was being held up, and Robin maybe wasn't expecting him to come up the inside like that. Into the pits comes the Burst Esports driver, the only Burst Esports driver, after Michi Hoyer received a race ban due to the brake checking incident last time out. Yes, it looks as if Robin Panzer is not going to be in the lead of this race anymore. Through go both Leon and Yannick, and here's a replay of what took place. I think it's already happened by this point, but yes, Robin Panzer in real trouble here.
Oh yeah, curve. Well, he ran wide into the out.
Okay. There we go.
So he's already hit one wall on the way into there, which may have damaged the car, and then I presume that coming into the next corner, just no front end. And
there we go. So
yeah, we're back. He's already meeting walls.
It was contact with, was that a Musto car? Someone going through on the outside there, and there was contact, and into the wall he went, so off went his front wing. Yeah, when we saw him meeting walls, that was a slightly later replay where he'd already lost his front wing. Who is that? I'm not very good at identifying liveries just by the looks of things, but anyway, made contact with someone, and into the wall he went. I think it may have been Masculi, maybe.
Could have been. Yeah, big shame though for Robin Panzer. I've just had an eye at my Discord DMs. Actually, the rain's been at 1% for quite a while now, so it turns out all our assumptions are wrong. Thank you for that information. And again, please do send me and Caitlin any inside info that you may have, be it through Discord, via the GPVWC Discord, which I'll touch on in a moment. Our DMs are always open. You can keep talking away in the live stream chats. And if you're watching along, hello and welcome. If you just joined us, or you've been with us since the start, we are watching round 13 of the GPVWC Super League Championship. And it is a crazy, crazy race we've got here in Singapore. We're approaching halfway now. And, well, it is basically stay on the track or meet your fate at the moment. So many drivers getting caught out by the tricky conditions and the tricky track here at the Marina Bay Street Circuit. And of course, Caitlin always keeps a keen eye on the chat. Our DMs are always open. And of course, if you want to get involved here at GPVWC and you want to DM me and Caitlin, you don't know how, you can...
That's so close!
Oh, Jake Dennehan getting squeezed to the wall by Yannis Volburn,
wow.
but unable to make the move. But does he get the drive out of the corner? Yes, he does. Round the outside. Textbook stuff with the traction out of the corner. Lovely move and superb bravery by the number 14, Jake Dennehan, who has been one of the drivers, one of the stars of this race under the lights here. Just been superb all night long. And, well, I'll touch wood, I don't commentators curse that, but he has been phenomenal. Look at that. So, I mean, it's aggressive but fair from Yannis Volburn. And then Dennehan... Oh, Volburn actually gets a bit of a twitch on, has to scrub the speed off, and Dennehan just takes the opportunity with both hands. Round the outside he goes, done before he's even in the corner. Superb stuff. But as I was saying, go to the GPVW website, join the Discord if you want to get involved. Back to the racing.
Indeed, amazing stuff there. Yannis getting over the curb, and that's why Jake was able to make the move in the end. And Shimon Frelich is now out of this race, I'm afraid. Just down it in the YouTube chat saying RIP Shimon, Polish internet, so I presume it was a disconnection from Shimon. His race wasn't going great anyway. He'd had that incident earlier on, but now he is out of this race. So 16 cars remaining now. Only one position left before the only drivers who finish are point scorers. But yes, I am keeping an eye on the YouTube comments. Josh Downard has been cheering on Jake, saying Jake Denegoat indeed, and then celebrating as Jake made that wonderful move for a third position there. And yes, amazing stuff there. What a joker, man, says Ryan. What's that all about, Ryan? I wonder if that's to do with an incident that happened out on track or something along those lines. Oh, Pansar, something to do with Pansar's incident. Okay, that makes sense. More people posting comments, more people that I recognise. Good to see all of the usual names and faces down as always. And I've been messaged on Discord by Ryan Elliott saying that this will be E-Team Hard's last race as E-Team Hard. From the next round onwards, they will once again be known as RSR, just as they were previously in this championship. So that's a team that's changed around a little bit. Thank you very much, Ryan, for letting me know that one. I'm also told that it may be VBM's last race in the series, but unfortunately, they don't appear to be continuing as anything. I was told during the YouTube chat earlier on that they posted something on Facebook, so we're going to check that out now because I hadn't heard of this before, admittedly. But anyway, that would be a shame for VBM Esports, who previously dominated GPWC, and they were the team who took Rudy Van Buren, the famous Rudy Van Buren, to his GPWC Super League Championship before he went on to be crowned world's fastest gamer in the McLaren Championship. But yes, they do have Jake Dennehan out there today in a good position and a good chance of scoring points. And another thing to keep your eye on, Russ, is that Leon Bock, like we said before, is still overdue a pit stop. He has kept his car out. He's stayed ahead of Yannick, possibly held him up a little actually, and looks to be set for what would be a one stop is actually a two stop in this race. If he can keep it going a little further as well, it may still be that he's fighting with Yannick for this victory here.
It may well be, and you've got to bear in mind as well that Yannick and Leon are the two closest drivers to each other in the title. Yannick's leading from Leon in the championship by 55 points, and Mjasej Minek is only 1 point behind Leon Bock, but he's about to not have a very strong result, and it could be that he actually drops out of championship contention today if he's over 75 points behind Leon Bock come the race end. if they finish as they are, he'll still be in it just about, but realistically it'll be a tall order. If he drops out of the points and they finish where they are now, he will be out of championship contention. Well, then it's just a straight fight between the Evolution guys, so no team orders going on between the brothers, clearly. Let's hope the brotherly love doesn't come under question. As we look further back in the pack, Thomas Voch trying to make his way past Jannis Volbern, who's been a real stickler for a few people in this race, I'd like to say. Strategy's perfect. He knows he's not the fastest guy out on track, but he's just sat there and used the nature of this circuit just to defend for his life and hold people up behind him, and it's working beautifully. Currently running P4 with Thomas Voch not far behind, just behind him, Jeffrey Fournier as well. It is very, very close with him, but Thomas Voch cannot find a way through the Holland Racing Team driver, no matter where he looks, left, right, just not a gap available, because Jannis Volbern is just doing an excellent job, but actually not a great exit out of the final corner for Thomas Voch, so maybe under attack from Jeffrey Fournier, who's been having a brilliant race, despite the fact he dropped a couple of positions after a super strong qualifying. He's been still in the hunt, still in the mix, and now he's going to have the opportunity for the DRS on Thomas Voch, who will also have the DRS, bear in mind, on Jannis Volbern as well, so it may not all be doom and gloom for the number 47 E-Team hard driver. Again, another driver who's having a superb race out there. There's a few guys out there tonight who are just running the race of the season so far for them, but Yannick Bock, not one of them. He wants to clear his brother, and it's even more of a dominant streak in the championship, which would be great to see for him, of course, but we'll have to row how that runs. But I mean, on the subject of strong races, this would be Jannis Volbern's best finish of the season. It'd be Thomas Voch's best finish of the season. It would be Jeffrey Fournier's second best finish of the season, of course, after his podium in Australia. So those guys all running superb events here in Singapore, but there's still 30 odd laps to go. Anything can happen, and we've seen so far it's been a race of attrition and a real crazy race at that. So got to wait and see.
Indeed. Just an update on the VBM esports situation, as we see Jake Danahan continuing to hunt the Evolution Motorsports drivers. This isn't necessarily their last race. Simracing by VBM posted to Facebook that with a heavy heart they announced that VBM will withdraw their Super League team at the end of the conclusion of the current season, and they've gone on to list their achievements, which is quite impressive. 182 races, 39 wins, 36 poles, 102 podiums, 250 points finishes, 2 Super League teams titles, 3 Super League drivers titles, and they've also listed all of their drivers, and that's a list that goes on for absolutely ages. It's a ridiculous list of drivers with some massive names, including champions such as Alex Siebel and Rudy Van Buren. But anyway, and Stefan Rolt by the looks of things as well. I may be missing a few, but I've just skim read all of that. So yes, it would be a massive shame to see VBM Esports go, and seeing as they've only got one driver out there as well, I'm a little worried that they might not make it to the end of the season, but at least they do have a car out there, and at least Jake Danahan is running so well in this event. He's catching the Evolution Motorsports cars up ahead of him, and I tell you what, he's still in the running for this one, isn't he, Ross?
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, I cannot in no way call who's still in the running. I'd say any of those guys in the top 10 could still win this race, judging by how it's run so far. Everybody is inches, millimeters away from making a mistake and meeting the wall. They're all on the absolute limit, as they always are in the Super League. I mean, this is the best of the best in our Factor 2 sim racing. And, well, we've seen some top drivers making those mistakes and meeting the walls, and I'm sure we'll be seeing that over the remaining, well, I think it's about 20, no, I don't know, I'm not going to do any maths right now, it's too late at night for this, but yeah, no, we've seen some real, shock driver exits from this race, drivers that you wouldn't expect to be going out. You're looking at your Stefan Rolts, your Thomas Harveys, your Daniel Stepkovskis, your Matthias Moose as well, Shimon Frelich, another driver who you wouldn't be expecting to see making such a mistake. So it's, it can be anybody and anyone. And then Masaj Minek as well, getting very lucky and being demoted down to P8 after that crash and getting a lot of damage repair. And he's still lucky to be in this one. So it really could happen to anyone. But right now, I must say, these Evolution boys and Jake Denham as well looking very, very solid up the front, looking very comfortable. Yannick looking a little bit faster than Leon at this phase in the race, but Leon just defending. He's still due a pit stop compared to the two behind him as well, so running an alternate strategy. And, well, it's just at this point, I think for those top three anyway, it's just letting the race run its course, you know, let the phase of, you know, your pit cycle and the laps remaining do its thing, and then see where you are with 10 laps to go, and then it's crunch time. Then you go to your 110% all-out attack. So we're going to have to wait and see. Jeffrey Fournier, another driver, running a very comfortable, very solid race as well in P4. Qualified, of course, P3. Phenomenal from the Scuderia Basilio driver, and absolutely having the race of his season so far. I mean, he's had some strong results, but this has been a mighty, mighty performance from him so far. And, well, you never know. As I said, anything could happen. He could be moving forward later on.
And Eris Masculi is another retirement from this race, I'm afraid. So that means Maciej Winnick's out. Winnick has retired, the driver who led the race earlier on. We've had two retirements back-to-back once again, and I'm afraid Maciej Winnick has now bitten the dust. He had that big incident earlier on, which dropped him out of the lead of this race, and he may have had another one. It may also have been a disconnection or something like that. Whatever the case, it doesn't really matter. The result is the same. We're going to see a replay. This is him on the back of Philip Pushke here, and I do hope that there was no incident between the two of them. He's just lost it in a very similar way to his accident earlier on, but he's hit the wall on the other side and damaged the rear suspension even more. He's made the car undrivable, as you can see on the exit, and that means that only 14 cars out of the 25 starters remain in this race. So everyone who finishes now will be scoring points. There you see the rear wing going flying, and obviously bringing the car back after his second rear wing losing accident in a few laps is just going to be a little too much. And honestly, I don't blame him. So Maciej Winnick now out of this race, Eris Masculi out of this race, 14 cars remaining, the top three extremely close. And when I said this was going to be a challenging race for us, this is exactly what I expected to happen.
Stay in this championship fight, Maciej Winnick needs Yannick Bock to finish third. That's what he needs. If he finishes where he is now, or if he wins the race, Maciej Winnick mathematically cannot win this championship. That is a huge blow for the driver who was so dominant in the early portions of the season. And to go out like that second, well, out of the races he's entered, it's the second DNF in a row. It's the third non-finish, of course, after not entering the last time out at Italy. And that is a big shame. He's been one of the stars of the season, and just hasn't been his round, unfortunately. And, well, Maciej Winnick now can just look on with a prayer to the sim racing gods that Jake Dennehan can do the business, or Yannick Bock can encounter trouble further on down the line, because it's 56 points is the gap back from Yannick Bock to Maciej Winnick. If he finishes where he is now, he picks up 20, and even if he wins the remaining 3 races and gets fastest lap, I mean, he can do it technically, but is that likely? You know, when you've got Yannick Bock on the form of his life and picking up points left, right and centre, it's tough to call. I mean, anything can and does happen in racing and sim racing, but, you know, it's times like this where you've got to kind of sit and go, let's face facts here, unfortunately. And, well, Yannick Bock, if he finishes, if he wins the race, it's all over. The only championship contender he will face will be his brother in Leon Bock, in Leon Bock, who currently leads the race and are looking to close the championship gap by about 5 points. So it comes down to 50 points, but again, heading into 3 rounds of the season, it is getting very, very close indeed. And that being said, Yannick Bock as well, I think Leon's made a mistake somewhere in the last sector, because suddenly the number 15, the championship leader, and actually Leon Bock looks like he's almost letting him through.
Well, they've done that because they've got enough room now. Jake Dennehan's really dropped back. I saw a couple more yellow flags, and Dennehan's now lost about 3 seconds, so hopefully those two aren't related. He's still got his wings about him, but yes, dropped a lot of time there, did Jake Dennehan. Now, Yannick, realistically, I think, was, or Maciej rather, was realistically out of the championship last time when he missed the Italian Grand Prix. But now he will be mathematically out of it as well. His teammate, Stefan Roll, is already mathematically out of it. And it looks as if it's just going to be Yannick and Leon remaining in mathematical contention after this. Into the pits now comes Jake. Oh no, that's a big slide. Good save once again, but you don't want to be doing that. His pit exits today have been hampered. The first time he came in, he was held up by Maciej Winnick, and the second time he was held up by himself, making a big error. And I'm lucky. He's lucky actually. He didn't slide straight back onto the track, because if he'd been parked there sideways on the track in a very fast corner, then that could have been a little dangerous. But anyway, out of the pits he goes on another set of hard tyres by the looks of things, and comes out in 6th, 7th position, because there goes Filip Pušky now. Denahan sliding the car about on the X of the pits, as it's still apparently a little drizzly out there, but not particularly rainy. Here's a replay of the mistake that we just saw. He came in a little too fast, overshot it. Slide! Another big save for Jake Denahan. He's got to stop doing that though, because even though these saves are spectacular and they do paint his car control in a good light, it's a mistake in car control that's led him to those positions in the first place. So please stop doing that, Jake.
Yeah, Jake Denahan drifting his way around the Singapore street. That's the second save that we've seen from him tonight. Coming into the pit entry is not the place you think so, but again, you've got to remember as well, is that the pit will be soaking wet on the pit entry as well. Even with the rain very light, or even it's looked like it's actually stopped now, it's still wet off the dry line, and because there isn't a dry line going to the pits because they're not racing through it, you come in there and it is like being on an ice rink. So it's tough going in and out, and Jake Denahan just getting caught out, I think, on the entry. Leon Bock I'd expect to see dive in a couple of laps time. We're not far off 20 laps remaining in this race. There's Jake Denahan out in P7, just behind Filip Pušky, who I presume he won't make too difficult a job of. But yeah, that did cost him about a second or two coming into the pit entry, which is not what he needed in that fight for the second place.
Shepard's in. He's probably the driver out there who we've mentioned the least so far today. He's had a very uneventful race, which in conditions like this is a good thing, and that's why he was running in 5th place. We'll drop back behind Filip Pušky and Jake Denahan now. They both go through by staying out. But yes, good job from Chris Shepard so far, and I think Volburn's too far back, so he's going to jump Volburn in all of this. I'm pretty sure he was behind Yannis Volburn when this all started, and that is a good sign that it's going well for Chris Shepard right now. The drivers who will need to make pit stops before the end of this race include Yannick, Leon, Jeffrey Fournier. In fact, yes, so Leon's going to have made one less stop, my apologies, bad grammar there. One less stop than a lot of the drivers around them, as has Jeffrey Fournier. And that's why they're so far up. Yannick is up there simply through being the fastest. I mean, he's absolutely been the best driver out there for quite a long time now. Wasn't necessarily up there at the start of the race, but he's got himself there through good positioning, good strategy. Jake Denahan might be about to pass Filip Pušky here. He's on much fresher tyres. Filip's another driver who we expect to stop again before the end of this race. The drivers who have just stopped in the last few laps will not have to stop again. They can definitely go 22 laps to the end of the race on one set of hard tyres. And Denahan does now get back up into 5th place, ahead of Filip Pušky, who he came out just behind on the pit exit.
Yeah, so as that's Leon in. Leon Bock comes into the pits, he bites the bullet. What tyre does he go on? Presuming the hard tyre, taking it to the end of the race. He's looked like the better of the two Bock brothers running the tyres. Yannick just hasn't quite been able to go as long on that whole compound. Yes, he comes out. Where does he come out? P4, so well in front of Jake Denahan. And, well, that tells you all you need to know. Denahan's mistake. I mean, he was slowing on track anyway, but that's cost him even more time, and there's a lap car separating them. The timing screen's still saying 21 seconds. I can see him on track, so I don't think it's quite that much, but yeah, the Leon Bock there benefiting massively, and with a few drivers in front still to pit, he's on for a very, very good result here. And getting the tyres up to temperature in clean air, he can go out, put some huge laps in, extend the gap back to Denahan, who's 2.5 seconds away. Yeah, just run his own race from here to the end. He can definitely go to the end on that set of rubber. So there's Denahan in P5, caught behind some lap traffic as well, which we'll need to get through. Of course, there will be blue flags, but you know, you're still losing time behind them in the dirty air. and it's easy to get drawn into their lines as well because they hit the brakes earlier. Often the lap cars, they're just not as quick as you. They hit the brakes earlier, they run. Oh, Shepherd very wide, getting all sorts of out of shape. And he holds up Yannis Volburn as well, but manages to keep it out of the wall. Great save from the Red Arch car. I mean, we've seen a fair few accidents tonight, Caitlin, but we have seen some superb car control as there's another car off the road there, and that is crabbing heavily.
No, it's just a lap car going out the way there. No, what I was going to get onto is that another driver who's still yet to make their final stop of the race is Yannis Volburn. He is definitely going to have to come in again. Yannick Bock is into the pits right now. But yeah, the reason that Volburn's going to have to pit again is because he's the only driver who has only used slick tyres so far in this race. And if you do that, you have to use more than one compound, which he has not done. I think there was a little change of order further back as well. I may just have been seeing Yannick losing more places as a result of being in the pits. He's going to come out well in front of his brother as expected. And that is the position he will likely stay in. Pushke losing places now. Is he coming into the pits, maybe? Philip is... Yes, he is. So Philip Pushke into the pits allows Shepherd and Volburn to go through. And now it's Geoffrey Fournier leading this race ahead of Tomasz Wok and then Yannick Bock. Fournier and Wok will still need to make their stops. And the lead battle will end up being the two Bocks once again, who are now separated. And there's a move. There's Yannis Volburn going up the inside. Oh, where's he going? Yannis Volburn up the escape road has massively overshot that corner. But a lot of confidence on his brakes right then, and his brakes didn't reciprocate it. Off he went, and that's going to cost him plenty of time. He might well want a pit stop now because... I mean, I don't know if he locked up the tyres or whatever. He's going to have to stop anyway, but yeah, going absolutely AWOL.
Let's get the replay of the onboard here. I mean, that front right not looking healthy already. You can, yeah, a lot of wear. But comes in huge run with the DRS. She's got a great exit on the brakes, and it just doesn't make the corner. Just on the brakes a little bit too late. Worn rubber, and DRS overspeed as well into the turn on the wet stuff. Straight on he goes, and well, luckily no damage to the car, but again, that's how easy it is to make a mistake here at Singapore.
And Fournier is in the pits, so Tomasz Wok takes the lead of the race now. Yannick Bock and Leon Bock will be coming through. It's going to be pretty close actually on pit exit, but Yannick should be there. Well, there he is. It's going to be very close with Leon Bock. I think Leon Bock might be about to get jumped. Not quite, not quite. So Leon does still come out just ahead of Geoffrey Fournier, but it was a lot closer than I was expecting. And Geoffrey now has jumped Jake Dennehan in that last stint. His in-laps must have been absolutely rapid because that's come out of nowhere, I think. Geoffrey Fournier up into 4th position in this race and a potential podium so long as Jake Dennehan stays behind him, Russ.
So Geoffrey Fournier looking very, very likely to get a very good result here if he keeps it on the tarmac. I mean, so yeah, Wok is still to pit. Yeah, Fournier could be in for a very good result here, you know? I mean, these tyres will go to the end. Yeah, Fournier could be in for another podium here. I mean, again, touch wood, no commentators' curse, etc. And we'll yet to see what Thomas Wok can do, but I've got my hopes high for the Scuderia Posilia driver. It's been a very mature, very sensible drive from Geoffrey, who's he's had an up and down season, to put it mildly. I mean, he's usually on the back end of the top 10, had a few DNFs, but also picked up a podium in Australia. So, you know, it's kind of came in ebbs and flows, and tonight could be on to add a second to the podium tally. Yep, there goes Thomas Wok into the pits.
And there's only about 15 seconds. Oh, and he's going to do a Dennehan, and he parks it into the wall, so he's done it a little worse. Has not... Oh, don't reverse onto the racing line. He gets away with it. Tomasz Wok losing places, having spun, touched the wall on pit lane entry. Of course, the best place to do that is pit lane entry, because then you can repair any damage, replace all of the flat-spotted tyres and all of that, but you still don't want to be doing it anyway. Through goes Yannick, and Leon takes 2nd. Fournier will be 3rd. Jake Dennehan goes through into 4th place, and Shepherd is going to pass him as well. Out of the pits comes Tomasz Wok, and he will still be P6, so hasn't lost that much time, and may not have even lost a place in the grand scheme of things, considering how far ahead Chris Shepherd is right now, but still won't have helped in that. Pit entry looking pretty treacherous here today, and I'm not really surprised actually, because it's used far less than the racetrack, so the water from the start would have been cleared a lot slower from there, and it's less grippy anyway because there's less rubber down and all of that. So yeah, quite a slick pit lane entry today, and quite a tight and narrow one where it's easy to make a mistake, Russ.
Yeah, again, just wet pit lane, tight entry, difficult entry. You're braking and turning on the way in as well to get the car slowed down. And, well, another victim of the wet rubber, or the wet track, rather. And round he goes. And, again, didn't lose a horrific amount of time, but that has promoted Geoffrey Fournier onto the podium. He's got Jake Dennehan behind him, who has been fast this race, but in this... this current stint and the back of the last one as well, he's just not quite looked like he's been on the same pace as the Bok boys. And Geoffrey seems to be maintaining pace with Leon. So I'm not sure. I mean, again, there's still 20 odd laps to go, so anything could happen. Have to wait and see. But yeah, Geoffrey Fournier looking very, very, very comfortable. And as I say that,
yeah,
gets a bit
wasn't.
sideways. Nearly wasn't, absolutely. So again, just shows how easy it is to make a slight mistake. Yellow flag
flags
coming into turn one, and that is a car going slowly.
Pushke leaving space for the leaders to come through.
That's quite nice of him, actually. See, not all yellow flags for accidents. Some of them are for people showing great sportsmanship and getting out of the way of the leaders, which is great to see.
David Young, not Pushke.
Yeah, so that is still great to see from David Young. But as I was saying, Fournier, he's looking very strong here, and even with that mistake, still on the back of Yannick Bok, although he's outside of DRS range, Leon Bok, should I say, who's in the process also outside of the DRS range of his brother Yannick. These front three, though, are still close together on track. Any mistake from any one of them could completely change the face of this race.
Indeed, and we've seen them very nearly making mistakes. We've seen them very nearly losing control a couple of times. Here's Robin Panzer, who is a driver who's lost control at a point in the race earlier on. Luckily still running in 9th position in this race, which is, I mean, in this race you do deserve points just for finishing, I'm not going to lie. It's been a tough one, and it will continue to be tough because we've still got 15 laps remaining. 15 laps around here isn't a short or inconsiderable amount of time. Leon Bok, by the way, is really pushing. He was actually quite a lot faster than his brother on that last lap, 1.5 seconds faster. If he does that again, he's going to be right on the back of him this next lap, and we're going to see whether they are allowed to fight or not. Look, he is doing it again. He's catching. He can see Yannick Bok. In fact, on the shortest straight to the circuit, you can still see Yannick Bok ahead of him. So he's gaining. We'll see what his time is this next time around. It won't be quite the same amount of gain, but he'll still be about 0.5 of a second quicker, maybe. Across the line they go. Nope, my apologies. He was actually 0.2 slower, so I was just obviously not paying attention to how close they were on the last lap. Geoffrey Fournier, meanwhile, was faster. He was almost a second faster than both of them that last time around. And one of the fastest drivers on the track, in fact, the fastest driver on the track right now, because the others are all in the 145s or lower or higher. And here he comes to the back, to the gearbox of Leon Bok's car. And although he got close, once again, you need to be closer than normal in these conditions, because you don't want to be on the wet patch for too long, or have to outbrake your opponents on the wet patch to the inside of the racing line. Geoffrey Fournier, a much bigger threat to Leon Bok right now than Leon is to his own teammate, and the scrap for the podium positions is going to come down to the wire by the looks of things. We've got 14. I guess still 15 laps remaining after this one, and these three getting a lot closer now.
Yeah, it's getting tight out there. Leon gaining on Yannick, Geoffrey gaining on Leon, and seems to be actually the fastest out of the three front runners at the moment. And well, Jake Dennehan falling further and further away. He just seems to not have the pace in the final phase of the race to hold on to the back of this fight for the podium places. And actually looks like Leon is about to come under attack, because he's got very, very slow coming out of the final few corners. Geoffrey won't be able to make the move down here. Leon looks to have a little bit more straight line speed as well, but with a good exit and run as he clatters the sausage curbs. And Leon actually still running wide through turn 2. He could have a very, very good run with the DRS, but yeah, it looks like Leon's just got the superior traction and drive out the corners, but he's struggling with corner speed itself. DRS for Jeffrey Fournier. It'll be wide open right now. Don't think he's going to be close enough to make a move, but he's gaining, but no. Still not close enough this time, but he's certainly quicker than Leon Bock at the moment. And as the laps draw on the end of the race, the checkered flag draws near. Jeffrey Fournier will be having a sniff, I'm sure, because that would be his best finish this season in GPVWC, a 2nd place. And that would be a huge achievement for a driver who's driven a fantastic race so far.
I wonder if Leon Bock's playing the rear gunner role now, because we saw that he was faster than Yannick Bock. He was gaining on him, but now that Jeffrey Fournier is caught up to the back of them, Leon's lap times have dropped. And of course, as a result, Jeffrey Fournier's have as well. Yannick was by far the fastest of the 3 of them that last time around. And I wonder if that's rather deliberate from Leon Bock, because the more that he can hold up Jeffrey Fournier before Jeffrey gets through, the less chance it is that Jeffrey will have a chance to attack Yannick Bock later on in this race, no matter how quick he is. So keep your eye on that. Still more yellow flags showing up. I do hope every time the yellow flags show up, there's a chance that they might just be for a back marker getting out of the way or going off the road to get out of the way for the leaders coming through. But of course, there's also a chance it might be a significant accident going on somewhere. We just have to keep our fingers crossed that it isn't. Jeffrey Fournier's last lap was quicker this time than Yannick. Both Jeffrey and Leon were 0.3 faster than Yannick that last time around. So it's not really an easy race to commentate on between these 3. It's not as simple as this driver's faster than this driver who's faster than that driver, because it's actually fluctuating a bit between the 3, and up the inside goes Fournier and they crash, they touch, they go off the road, and down the escape road goes Jeffrey Fournier. Leon Bock rejoins the road ahead, so Leon will maintain his 2nd position.
Denahan.
And Jake Denahan goes through. So Jake Denahan back into the podium positions. Judge that as you will. I'm sure the stewards will, but yes, I'm going to have a look back at that on the YouTube stream to see what happened. Jeffrey Fournier went up the inside of Leon Bock, and it kind of looked. I don't know whether he would have made the corner. I mean, Leon definitely did turn into him, but the argument that he's going to make is that Jeffrey may not have made the corner anyway. It kind of looked as if Jeffrey had left it late on the damp patch and may have slid straight on. Of course, we don't really know, because in the end, Leon turned in and they made contact. So you could really, I mean, there are 3 different ways of looking at it. 1, was Fournier too overambitious? 2, did Leon turn straight into him? Or 3, was it a combination of the 2 of those things, and as a result, it's a racing incident? I mean, I personally don't really want to say my opinion on that, because I don't know. But look at that contact between the 2 of them. Fournier went down the escape road, and he will probably be fuming, because he is the one who's come off the worst there. He's lost a move, he's lost a position to Jake Denahan. And Moritz Kropp is just coming to the YouTube chat saying, "How did Jake get into 3rd place?" That's how. You're watching replays of it right now.
Yeah, well, there you go then. So on board with Leon Bock. Let's see it from the other driver's perspective. And, Jeffrey just doesn't make the corner for me. Leon, I think, maybe didn't expect him to be there or didn't see him coming or something like that. But I'd still say that's a racing incident. They're both in the race as well. And actually, Jeffrey Fournier is on the back of Denahan, so it's not all over yet for Jeffrey Fournier and Denahan. So this fight for podium places has become a fight for 2nd, because it's allowed Yannick Bock to escape and he can essentially cruise home now. But yeah, and actually not far behind Fournier, Chris Shepherd as well. So it's an interesting fight that we've got on our hands now as a result of that. For me, that's a racing incident, because no drivers ended up on the wall. I think Jeffrey just missed his braking zone, but then again, Leon turns in as well. 50-50 all the way. And again, I know that racing incidents are very much becoming a thing of the past nowadays, both in real-world motorsport and in the virtual world of motorsport. But for me, that is shouldn't be any penalties awarded post-race for that one, just a 50-50, and they're still in the podium fight, which is absolutely crucial as we're honing in on 10 laps left to run in round 13 of the GPVWC 2022 Super League season. Yannick Bock is about to put one hand on the title trophy. Leon Bock, desperate to stay second to maximise his chances heading into the final couple of rounds. Denahan wants to get a podium after a strong race in which he's faded, and Fournier, of course, will be devastated if he doesn't get on that podium after what has been such a strong race. That's an interesting interpretation of track limits there from Jake Denahan, but it's fast, so whatever works. But, well, it could be neck and neck between these guys for the remainder of the race. Chris Shepherd's dropped back in the final sector. I think he may have made a mistake somewhere. Let's hope he can get back in, because who doesn't love a four-way fight? But a three-way fight is still a treat for us for P2 and P3 on the podium. All on the line, perhaps more so than for Leon Bock, who, you know, he can't take risks as he's in that championship fight, but he wants to take the second for the maximum championship points. Meanwhile, Denahan and Fournier just want the best result they can get, as Denahan actually had a look to the inside there. This is going to be very, very spicy.
And I was wrong earlier on when I said that Leon Bock had made one fewer pit stop than the rest of these cars. I'd just forgotten that he, as well as Jeffrey Fournier, had made a stop earlier on in the race. Actually, not that long after after they'd gone onto the slick tyres anyway. So they have all made the same number of stops, it's just they did quite a short second stint. The Leon Bock, for example, his second stint was about 3 laps shorter than that of Yannick Bock, and Jeffrey Fournier's second stint was 3 laps shorter than that even. So I expect that's probably why I forgot it, but anyway. The only driver out there who has only made 3 stops so far is Yannis Vorburn, but hopefully he knows he still needs to make another one, because he hasn't used 2 compounds of dry tyre just yet. Meanwhile, I'm afraid we've lost David Yunt. It looked as if he was going to score points earlier on this race, but unfortunately he has now DNF'd. And that's one of the reasons that I didn't read out Lee Davison's comment when he was talking about points for David Yunt, sound the klaxon, because unfortunately it was a little too early to be saying something like that, and that is exactly why. You need to do over a certain amount of the race in order to be classified as a finisher, and therefore to score points, and David Yunt did not do enough of the race, so he will not be classified and will not score points. Right now it looks as if there's going to be 13 drivers scoring points. And even though the MDR cars are last and second to last, sorry, I'll cut away from that for a second, because look at this, Fournier, oh, that was close. It looks as if he was trying to go to the right-hand side there of Jake Denahan into the braking zone, but Denahan blocked it off. You don't normally have to block off the right-hand side of the road. I wonder if he was trying to force Jake to go defensive on the left-hand side, which Jeffrey himself knew to be the less grippy side of the road, and Jake just didn't fall for the bait. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Even though MDR are going to be last and second to last of the runners in this race, if it continues at this rate, they are still going to score enough points to take them away from last place in this championship. So just by turning up today, which is something that they haven't done in a long time in this championship, they're going to overtake Green Stripes and actually get themselves quite a lot closer to the who's the next team up? It's Stax Racing. Yeah, they'll be quite a lot closer to Stax as well, even though of course they won't. Actually, no, they won't, sorry, because Philip Pushka is still in the race and is going to be scoring more points at this rate as well. But yes, it just shows you the importance of finishing races on a damp street circuit. You deserve points just for finishing, and that's what they will get.
So, as we come on to, well, 10 laps to the flag next time, should I say? I should just stop doing maths, shouldn't I? Honestly, I was commentating last weekend and was having to do like championships on the fly, and it was the worst experience of my life. I should really never do it again. But you know, it's very close out there. We've got what is brewing up to be a 5-car fight for P2. Just unreal. Just unreal. Singapore, it always provides in GPVWC, and we are going to get an absolute corker. Yannick Bock, should I say. He is gone. The race is in his hands, pending a disaster. But, oh, it's going to get very interesting for these final podium places. Denahan looking fast. Leon Bock desperate to hold on to third. Shepard and Vok looking really quick as well. And Fournier just wants to get back onto that podium. Oh, this is going all the way to the wire, isn't it? Oh, this is this is what GPVWC is about. It is about the best drivers in R Factor 2 getting out there with 11 laps to go from the end. There is what? Maybe 1.5 seconds separating second to sixth. Just brilliant.
It's great stuff, and there's no real point for Leon Buck to be a rear gunner anymore. He is well and truly far enough behind his teammate to give up on that, so he just needs to push now, and hopefully has enough to hold off the drivers behind him. The incident between Leon Buck and Jeffrey Fournier has had that negative side effect of separating the battle for the lead of the race. There is no battle for the lead of the race now. It looks relatively straightforward for Yannick Buck, providing you can call a damp race on a street circuit straightforward. But he just needs to do 10 more laps, including the one that he's just started, and then he will be crowned the winner of the virtual Singapore Grand Prix. But right now, it is all about the fight for second. As you were saying, Leon Box right there, as are Jake Denahan, Jeffrey Fournier, Chris Shepard, and Tomasz Vok. And it always amazes me how often we get things like this, because these races are so long. This one's going to be the better part of 2 hours, and yet after all of that, the drivers are so evenly matched that they all just kind of bunch together and finish just centimeters apart from each other sometimes. It is helped by the fact that it's difficult to overtake, because that does help them to kind of bunch up a bit, as opposed to if they were all running a Grand Prix on their own with, I don't know, ghost cars around them rather than solid cars or something. But of course we don't do that anymore like we used to. Oh, and into the wall! Who was that? That looked as if it was Chris Shepard. So Shepard, who I was complimenting earlier for having a very solid race that we weren't seeing much of, has now had his he's now had an incident. He's lost control at a very fast corner, and couldn't collect it like Denahan did earlier on. I'm afraid he's hit the barriers and has lost his front wing, so he will be coming back to the pit lane now. And we're going to see a replay of it from on board Chris Shepard's car. You're going to see just how quickly it can go wrong at a damp street circuit. He's going to leave. Oh, he got on the damp patch. What's that? Slams into the barrier. And the Red Archer driver will be seeing red as he returns to the pits slowly and without any front downforce.
Big shame there for Chris Shepard, but that is racing sometimes. Unfortunately, the latest victim. There's a great slow-mo there of just what happened. Again, too much speed into the corner. We've seen it time and time again here in Singapore tonight and across the last couple of weeks as well, with all the championships that we have here at GPVWC. This, of course, Super League, the top tier. But yeah, that is a real shame. And he comes into the pits. He should still be picking up some points, judging from the gaps back to the likes of Wolburn and Pansar. But yeah, what a shame for Chris Shepard. Then there was Four fighting for second, and Jeffrey Fournier. Wow, that was super laid out, but backs out of it. He pulled out at the last possible second there, didn't he? In his quest to get back onto the podium. Oh, this is just... It's just tense racing. I mean, this has just been a really good race. I mean, yes, you know, there's been a bit of chaos and drama and whatnot, but this is what racing is all about, you know, just neck and neck stuff. I mean, cast your mind back to the Formula One at COTA, the United States Grand Prix in 2021. You know, not a lot of on-track overtakes, but it was just a tense race. And that's what we've got for these last couple of laps here. Just super close. You don't know when the move's going to come, if the move's going to come. As Thomas Vach, unfortunately, I think may have fallen out that fight after having to get on the brakes to avoid Chris Shepard. But still, 3 cars neck and neck in the fight for second. Anything can happen in racing. It usually does. And with not long left to run, it is anybody's guess who's going to take second, who's going to take third, who is going to take fourth. There is still drama to come. There is still chaos to come. Who do you think is going to win at home, wherever you may be, watching around the world? Let us know on social media using the hashtags GPVWC and hashtag Superleague, or of course in the live stream chats, or just slide into our DMs. We're not that dangerous, we don't bite, and we always want to hear what you guys at home want to say. And oh, this is going to be tense, isn't it?
It is indeed. The thing is, Jeffrey doesn't really want to make the move here. He wants Jake Dennehan to make a mistake so he doesn't have to, because every time Fournier's had to make the move, he's had to get onto the damp part of the track. He's had to go off the grippy bit. And I mean, if you remember earlier, he tried to go to the outside of someone through this little kink here, had a massive slide, followed by a huge save. And that could very easily happen again if he tried the same thing. So what he wants to happen here is he wants Jake to be watching his mirrors and not focusing on where he's going. He wants Jake to get on the wet patch for him, and that way Jeffrey can stay on the right line and just go through as easy as pie. But Jake's wise to that. He knows how to race. He knows the score at this point, and he's of course hoping that the same thing happens with Leon Bock just in front of him. He just needs to hold his line and maintain his speed, and he should be safe for third place. Fournier actually got quite a bad exit to that hairpin that time round. He was quite tentative in his turning in and accelerating. And Tomasz Wok appears to have dropped back a little, so I wonder if the few cars ahead of him have maybe picked up the pace. Of course, that might have been helped by Shepard's incident, because then he lost the DRS from the car in front of him. But anyway, hasn't been able to quite get onto the back of Jeffrey Fournier. Shepard, meanwhile, has returned to the track in 8th position, so he'll still be within the top 10 places after the incident. Just won't be challenging for the podium. And into the pits! What's going on for Jeffrey Fournier here? Well,
what?
Jeffrey has he started on the inters, so it's not like he needed to use a different compound of dry tyre here, unless he's been given an automatic drive-through for track limits or something. Well, he's stopping for soft tyres, so maybe
Fastest lap.
Well, maybe, but Pushka's gone past him now, so that would be a big. I mean, it would be kind of like if you remember Ferrari's strategy at
any race
France.
this for the past 5 years, frankly, but
I guess. But if you remember specifically Circuit Paul Ricard earlier this year, where they pitted Leclerc for soft tyres with the anticipation that he would come out ahead of Alonso or be able to overtake him on the road, and then he ended up finishing behind Alonso due to a pit lane speeding penalty or whatever. You know, that was the risk that they took on that occasion, and Fournier has maybe just taken the same risk, but I mean, he's got to gain about 8.5 seconds for Pushka. So I was not expecting him to come into the pits there. It didn't look as if his tyres were hitting the cliff. He was keeping up with the cars around him. So you don't normally, at this stage in the race, you don't pit in anticipation of your tyres hitting the cliff, surely. I don't know what that was about, Ross.
I mean, maybe it's a precaution, because maybe he's thinking, I'm going to struggle come the end of the race.
You don't
maybe he's hoping the other guys are going to struggle as well.
Because it's
I don't
not
know.
it's not like you have tyre blowouts or anything. At this point, you've just got to stay out there, you know?
I'm lost for words, really. I mean, Jeffrey Fournier, I'm sure he's got a valid reason, but here in the commentary booth, we are absolutely stuck on that one. So I guess we'll see if he's got a master plan that's going to come together in the remaining 5 laps of this round 13 of 16 here at the virtual Marina Bay Street Circuit in Singapore for the GPVWC Super League. And Jake Dennehan is looking ever closer to Leon Bock now that Fournier is out of the way. 1 place separating him from second, and Leon, well, he needs to finish second. He has to stay in this championship fight as much as he can. He's losing another 5 points to his brother as it stands. He'll drop to 60 points back, which is a tall order to come back from with 3 races. So we've got to wait and see what's going to happen. Does Dennehan get through Bock? Does he not? Does Vock catch up to the back of them? They start to fight as Chris Shepard on the fastest lap. And then just Jeffrey Fournier, I just no idea. No, it's not often I'm completely baffled in a commentary box, but this is one of those moments. Unless his tyres were just on the cliff and he was just managing that beautifully, I can see no conceivable reason why Jeffrey Fournier had to pit.
We saw a slightly baffling strategy call from him earlier as well, when he stayed out for an extra especially long time on those intermediate tyres. So I don't know. I mean, I wonder where he'd have finished if he'd gone for a conventional strategy today. But anyway, currently in 6th position. as I'm saying that, Geoffrey Fournier and Chris Shepherd are unsurprisingly the two fastest cars on track right now. Fournier, oh my goodness, Fournier was 1.5 seconds faster than his opponents in the second sector alone on this lap. He was about a second faster in the first sector. So Fournier is flying right now. He's very easily going to set the fastest lap of the race soon, I think. Chris Shepherd has it currently, and you do get an extra point for that. But of course, Fournier would have lost some points from dropping behind Pushkay, unless he can get back past it. Actually, you know what? At this rate, I think he might be able to get back past him again. So he may still actually gain points from this. Yeah, maybe we are wrong. Maybe this is a big brain strategy from Geoffrey Fournier. He knew he wasn't going to be able to get past. No, but he still lost a place to walk, didn't he? Oh, sorry, I am still confused. My apologies. Sets first lap of the race now, though. So 1:42.521 from Geoffrey Fournier. That is nearly a second faster than anyone else in this race has gone full stop. And if you don't count Shepherd, who also pitted quite recently, it's well over a second faster than anyone else. Geoffrey Fournier and Chris Shepherd are moving faster than we've seen any car move today at any point by a long, long way. Fournier is just past Pushkay, so Fournier back into 5th place now, and but he's not going to be able to reel him walk, surely. Like, look at that, 14 seconds. Surely that's too much there. So he's still going to lose a place in all of this. And Dennehan's having an incident, I think. There's a yellow flag out there, and he lost a place, and he spun. Dennehan is recovering from a spin. So Jake Dennehan there, I saw a yellow, I saw him lose a place, and now he rejoins the road in 4th position, quite a long way behind Thomas Vock. Vock's now quite a long way behind Bock as well, so I'm afraid the strong fight for second that was teeing up has been lost. Now here's how this happened. It's happened on the entry, and again it's just he got off the grippy bit of the road, and it's lucky that no one else was coming through there, because had to reverse straight back onto the racing line. You can visibly see the racing line there, the drier bit of the road, and you can also visibly see that he wasn't quite on it as he turned into the corner, so his tyres lost grip and around he went. So down into 4th place he goes. Tomasz Vock is now in that final podium position.
It's just, this race just keeps serving up surprises, doesn't it? Geoffrey Fournier, P5. He's only got a few laps to pull off his big brain strategy if he has one. But with Leon Bock into 2nd, Thomas Vock into 3rd.
He might still pass Dennehan, actually, because Fournier, with Dennehan,
he is flying on those soft tyres. I mean, he was looking set for a 4th place anyway a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, but he might be 3rd. Is he going to get
back in it?
But he might be 3rd now if he hadn't pitted. So who knows?
I do not know. I do not know at all. I mean, Geoffrey Fournier is going to do what Geoffrey Fournier is going to do, I guess. Just gotta roll with it, don't you? The Scuderia Brasilia driver has been up, down, and everywhere. Well, it's still a performance to be proud of nonetheless, I think, for this man. He has driven his race of the season, even though it won't be his best result. This has been a performance of a lifetime for the number 89 driver. And I think it's one that, even though the result won't show it, he can go away and he can be so, so proud. And I think he's done a superb job. And without a doubt, I mean, unless someone pulls off some absolute magic in the last 3 laps, he will be my driver of the day. Of course, let us know who your driver of the day is as well in the live stream chat. Yeah. But Geoffrey Fournier, I mean, baffling strategy. He's a lot faster than Dennehan on the soft, so he will get through surely. But without a doubt, still a superb performance.
You can see Dennehan struggling very badly there. I'm being told in the YouTube chat that his rear tyres are on about 40% right now, which is not surprising since he's had a few incidents, and Fournier is going to pass him very easily here, and Dennehan knows it, doesn't put up too much of a fight. Through goes Geoffrey Fournier. Dennehan will have to nurse the car back to the finish now. So Fournier is back into 4th position. Whether he would be on the podium now with a slightly different strategy or not is irrelevant, because he has gone for the strategy he's gone for, and whatever the case, he'll only lose about 1 position due to that last pit stop. Tomasz Vock now is close to Leon Bock. He has been catching these past few laps, and as we speak, yeah, his Vock's last lap was about a second faster than Leon's. So maybe the battle for second isn't quite as dead as I thought it might have been. It's not the 5 or 6 car train that we had earlier on, but at least we still have a scrap for it between Leon and Tomasz. and this could still go down to the wire. We have 2 laps remaining after this one, so not many opportunities left for actual overtakes to take place. But yeah, keep your eye on it for sure, because we don't know quite how this is going to come out. This is Yannick Bock. He's just lapped. Is that Chris Shepherd? Yeah, so that shows you how... No, Chris Shepherd's about to unlap himself. So Shepherd, after his stop and after his incident, is going a lot faster and is about to get a lap back on Yannick. Shepherd's been into the pits again, I think, because his last lap is registered as over 2 minutes long. This lap is registered as being over 2 minutes long. What's going on with Chris Shepherd there? Looks as if he's been into the pits. No, I think it's probably because he pitted at the end of the lap before that one, and then as a result it affected both that lap and the lap he's just done. So Shepherd's been into the pits again, presumably because he had enough of a gap to Poom behind to pit and once again go for fastest lap. Keep your eye on that. And that's also why he's backing off from Yannick now, because he wants the clean air to be able to set fastest lap in. Tomasz Vok once again closer to Leon Bock now. Getting himself closer, has the rear wing flap open and will not be able to go for it there. We're on the penultimate lap of the race now. Yannick Bock continues to lead by 14 seconds. And it's all about the fight for second place between Leon Bock and Tomasz Vok, Russ.
Yeah, just crazy scenes. I don't know. Oh, it's a bit wide from Jeffrey Fournier. Oh, no!
He saved it.
He did save it, but any hopes of catching Tomasz Vok, I think, may have just disappeared unless Vok is massively held up here.
I tell you what, though, look how close he is. What is happening with my voice?
Is Vok going for it? He had a look to the outside on Leon there.
Yeah, but look how close Fournier is. I tell you what, if he passes either of these two, I'm going to eat my words and actually apologize to him in a DM, because that is a massive recovery drive. He is, I mean, he must have seen that, and it must have been what you were saying, how he knew other drivers were going to struggle even more. We're now onto the final lap of the race with Yannick Bock, and Fournier is right there in the fight for second. I didn't even see him coming. I'd written him off laps ago.
What is going on? I've got no idea.
And
One more tour.
With a three-way fight for second place.
One to go at the Marina Bay street circuit. Yannick Bock has got it done and dusted. He just needs to stay on the road, but Jeffrey Fournier does what Jeffrey Fournier does. This is unbelievable. He has the chance to cause a major upset. Yellow flag in Sector 2. Hopefully everyone is all okay. And it's gone as quickly as it arrived, but look at him darting down. Tomasz Vok having a look to the inside, but ducks back in. But Jeffrey Fournier almost ramming into his gearbox here. Let's follow them round for this final lap on board with Jeffrey Fournier, who could have just pulled off the master stroke of the season in strategy. We've doubted him time and time again this race. Gets a little bit sideways, getting the power down, but look how much pace he's got on that fresh, soft rubber compared to Thomas and Leon. He just needs to find the gap. He just needs to find a way through. There is one more DRS zone still to come. Look how hard he's pushing the car this way, that way, left and right, rear end squiggling. All over the place. He's got to be here. It's DRS not the best exit for the corner. DRS open. Does Thomas go? I think Thomas might be too far back, and Jeffrey may be too far back as well. Oh, that's Hygo Poom with another crash for Hygo Poom. I think he might be retiring from the race. He's pulled off out of the way. That's again Jeffrey Fournier looking to the inside. They're coming into the final sector now. Yannick Bock will win this race. And it's been a race of attrition, to say the least. 25 started, 12 remain, and this man is on top, and he's got one hand on the trophy. Champion-elect for Yannick Bock. He wins in Singapore, but we turn our attention back to the fight for second. Can anyone do it into the final corner? No. Leon Bock is going to hold on for second as Jeffrey Fournier oversteps his mark in a last chance saloon attempt. But he will still bring it home in fourth. Tomasz Vok gets a podium. What was this race?
What a finish. It's a 1-2 for Evolution, but only just there. Yannick Bock, not quite champion-elect, hasn't quite mathematically wrapped it up just yet, although he has knocked his main rivals out of contention. It's just Leon Bock remaining now. and as a result, we can't technically crown him champion yet. So Leon second, then Tomasz Fogg in third place, Jeffrey Fournier in fourth, Jake Dennehan, crashes into the wall heavily in the background, but he's already finished fifth. Philip Pushke will be P6, then it is Yanis Vorburn 7th, Robin Pansar 8th, and Jukka-Pekka Lalu is 9th. The rest of the cars a lap down are Chris Shepherd, Stephen Lexo, Vincent Gutt, and Poom didn't finish. Well, he's still done enough of the race to be classified, I think, so I think he will still be given points out of all of that one. NDR, a double points finish after coming back from a 10-race absence. I have to take my hat off to them. They don't have the best of cars as a result of missing so much development, but even so, they've finished the race with both of their drivers in the points, because everyone who finishes in the points, there is the order, and I know you're missing the 9th place driver, but just have to bear with the order there. Who's already left the server that we can't see there? Jukka-Pekka Lalu should be classified 9th, although you can't see him on the order just yet because he left the server before we brought. Oh no, you can see him. He's back. Jolly good. Okay, so there is the finishers of this race. And the fastest lap in the end went to, I think it went to Fournier. It did quite convincingly in the end. So Jeffrey Fournier will take the point away for that. The gap in the championship came out by 5 points, meaning that it is now 60 points separating the two of them. So Leon will need to score 61 points more. Will need to score 11 points more than Yannick Bock at the next round in order to keep the championship alive, which will be a very tough task. There are the many DNFs from this race, including some very heavy hitters and some big racers who are unfortunately not going to be taking any points away from this round for various reasons. There were some disconnections, there were plenty more accidents. That was the primary cause of DNF, and unfortunately it's led to the championship becoming even more unassailable for plenty of these drivers, especially Maciej Winnick and Stefan Roll, who were completely knocked out of contention today. Let me look at the YouTube comments. Dake2 says Jeffrey, and then the French designation there. I presume Jeffrey is that's Alex Lahoe's driver of the day, I think. Josh Downing celebrating MDR points. Yes, and it's a double points finish there, moving them ahead of Green Stripes in the championship. Alex saying my voice went to 25k RPM. Yes, it did indeed. It rather increased its frequency for a bit there. And Josh Down is saying, just for the record, I suggested that Jake should pit before Jeffrey did, but I was overruled by the top server. Oh, that's a shame. Jake would definitely have jumped Jeffrey there, may have even scored a podium at that rate. But of course, it's difficult to tell, because with big brain strategies like that, you don't always know if they're going to work until you actually try them. We can move on to some interviews now after what was a very, very chaotic race. The first driver we can bring in is actually Stephen Lexo. Stephen, do you hear us?
Yep.
Good stuff. So, Stephen, you were tasked with bringing one of the MDR cars home for the first time in 10 races here in GPVWC. Why now? Why is MDR decided to bring themselves back?
Well, after the last race, I saw that there was no MDR in the race, so I asked the guys why they aren't on track, and they said that they didn't have a car on track for a while. And yeah, as I'm going to do as much races as I can at the moment to get rid of my bad luck history this year, I asked if I could do the final 4 races, and they said yes. So yeah, that's how it happened.
Amazing. And you brought home an 11th place finish today. I know that it was a race of attrition, but to be honest, that makes it even more impressive in my opinion, because you brought the car home on what was a treacherous day. Just how difficult was it out there?
Well, it was very, very difficult. These conditions around Singapore for 61 laps. I'm usually a driver who has quite different racing lines compared to the others. So yeah, I had one wheel in the wet for half of the race, I guess. So yeah, nearly died a few times. I hope that you didn't see that I lost my front wing in the pit lane.
Oh no, I don't think we did see that.
That was embarrassing. Really embarrassing. It's actually the first time in 21 years that happened to me. So Yeah.
Have you been sim racing for 21 years?
Not sim racing, but I'm playing racing games for 21 years now. So
Wow. Wow, you're experienced. Great stuff.
Oh, I
well,
feel young. Jeez.
yes, indeed. I haven't been alive 21 years.
Neither have I.
Russ,
So.
do you have any questions for Stephen?
Nah, just great job, Stephen. You know, super impressive stuff out there. You know, to come back and to put in a performance like that was really strong. Even with the pit lane front wing incident. Good job.
well, it didn't really feel good. I actually practiced quite a bit for the dry and improved the setup, so I felt really comfortable in the dry. And yeah, as soon as it rained, I was just like, oh, please no. But yeah, also a big thank you to Monsieur Ruven Meschede for being my race engineer tonight. Being updated, who's on which tire and so on is quite important in these conditions. So a big thank you to him.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Stephen, and congrats on bringing MDR their first points in 10 races.
Yep. See ya.
Let alone their first race in 10 races. Let's bring in Yannick Bock next, the race winner here today. Yannick, that's got to feel good. You've won a wet, damp street circuit race around Marina Bay, and by over 10 seconds as well. Pretty good in the end there.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was a very long race, very exhausting for me. So yeah, I'm glad that I could win this race today.
And a 1-2 with your teammates as well. It didn't always look like it was going to be that way. You were a little, you were of course behind a couple of drivers in qualifying. How did you manage to make your way through to the front and have your cars running 1 and 2?
Well, I think we weren't the fastest guys in the wet today, but yeah, I tried to be careful and not to lose front wing or rear wing, and it was close sometimes. But I think that's the reason why we are on top.
Absolutely. Of course, it was Matchy leading earlier on, but the difference was that you kept your front wing or you kept your rear wing, and he didn't. What was your kind of reaction when Matchy had his incident? Is it a kind of mixed emotion, like not how you want to win a race, or were you not really thinking about that?
Well, it was so exhausting to drive today, so you had to be very concentrated in every corner, and on that specific moment I just tried to not hit him because he was like very slow on the bridge section. So yeah, I tried to be careful and not to lose my car because yeah, like I said, it was very tricky today, but yeah, we could manage it.
Now, Yannick, it's just you and your brother in contention for the championship now. I'm just wondering what the dynamic is between you two. Obviously, there's a massive gap between the two of you in the points now. Are you racing each other, or is he kind of acting as a bit of a rear gunner right now?
If we have the same pace and we don't have anyone we are fighting, then we of course would race each other. Today it was like tricky because when you got off the dry line, you always spin or lose the car. So today was no real fight. But yeah, in the last races we will definitely fight for the victory.
Good to see. That's good to see. Now you can actually wrap up the championship in Japan. All you need to make sure is that Leon doesn't outscore you by more than 10 points. How does that feel going towards Japan, and will it change your attitude towards racing?
Well, I don't think so. I lost this championship the last years by small margins, so I just want to win every race, and I think we have a good pace in every race, and we try to win, obviously. But yeah, we want to finish 1-2 every race.
You've done a great job. That's 3 victories in a row now, and 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 8 podiums in a row. So you're very much having your Max Verstappen arc right now. Russ, do you have any questions for Max Verstappen substitute Yannick Bock?
Just how physically demanding was that race for you, Yannick? I mean, you said it was a tough race, but just so our viewers at home can understand, because that was a 2-hour 10-minute race. It's the longest one we've had all season. It was wet, it was dry, it was tough, and obviously you conquered the conditions and conquered the field. But just how tired are you right now?
I'm very exhausted. I guess it was the most exhausting race of my career because, yeah, Singapore always a long race, and in the wet you cannot make a small mistake, then you're in the wall and lose front wing or rear wing. So yeah, it was very exhausting. I'm sweating like hell, and I go to the shower in 1 minute.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for speaking to us, Yannick, and congrats on your third victory in a row and getting yourself in position to win the championship at Japan. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So that was Yannick Bock, and that is all we've got time for because there's no one else in the interview room. So we will start to wrap up now. Thank you very much to Russ McIntyre for joining me in this broadcast, as well as Tom Stevens, the broadcast director, who provided you with the replays, the sights, the sounds, all of that stuff. Thank you as well to Owen Harmon. We don't always shout out Owen, but we really should because he does all of the tweets, the social media work during the races, and I can see that he's been just as active today as ever. Thank you to GPVWC for once again putting on a fantastic event, and thank you to both the drivers that we just interviewed for even though they're tired, coming in to speak to us. Ross, what a day! Do you have anything to say before the broadcast ends?
I'm gonna go to bed now. That's about it, really. That was,
yeah.
I mean, it was exhausting for us, let alone the drivers. I mean, just 2 hours, 10 minutes of non-stop action, and I'm sure it'll continue 2 weeks' time at Suzuka.
Very good. Well done, Russ, and thank you very much for today. Okay, well, thank you all for watching, and we will see you in... we'll see you in about just under a week now. So Tuesday for Formula Sprint 2, if you want to tune in for the junior categories leading up to the Japanese Grand Prix. And then the actual Japanese, the virtual Japanese Grand Prix will be taking place in 2 weeks' time at Suzuka, same time, 7:30 British time. Convert that into your local time zone. We will see you then. Good night.